is fading. We gotta go. I'll get my car.
What, mine?
Yours. I gotta get me one of those.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bat Dance Discussions. Justice for Fives. Without the brave heroics of Clone Trooper 5555, also known as Fives, Ahsoka would not be here today, as Fives was the one who warned Rex about the inhibitor chips, giving him that split second to warn Ahsoka to find Fives and figure out how to escape the clones infected by the inhibitor chips. Ahsoka Tano, who we are talking about, would not be alive if it wasn't for Fives. So, as I say in any show, hashtag justice for Fives. So yes, today we are going to be talking Ahsoka. We are going to talk about the last 3 episodes, and then we'll kind of do a whole retrospective of the whole season. Was this shit? Was this great? Will the Phantom Menace love me or hate me after this review? Well, find out. And before we start today's show, this is just another reminder to please donate to the GoFundMe page for Mikey Sutton's family. Mikey Sutton, again, I say this every show, and I'm going to continue saying this until the fundraiser closes. Mikey Sutton was a great friend to us all. Without Mikey Sutton, I wouldn't know all you great people. I wouldn't know the guests who I'm about to bring on. I wouldn't know, let's see. What up, Brogu? Thanks for stopping by. I wouldn't know Sills, Skywalker, Trey of the Bat Channel, Super Bowl Corey, Zod Rider, and I wouldn't know Ahsoka, or at least that's who he's dressed as right now. Josh, how are you today, man?
What's up, Bad Dan? How are you?
Good. Really excited to talk Ahsoka, and just wanted to send a brief reminder to everyone to please donate to the Mikey Sutton GoFundMe page. If you can just donate $1, that makes a difference. If you can just share it, share the fundraiser. The link's in the description.
Yes, sir.
Then that alone makes a difference too. Do you want to add anything, Josh?
No, I appreciate you continuing that, remembering Mikey Sutton, because although, he is laid to rest now, the wound is still forever in our hearts, and the family especially. We have a big wound, but the family is still trying to, pay for those, burial costs, and those are not cheap as somebody who's had to do that as well. So continue to please donate to the GoFundMe if you find, paydays just happened. So if you have extra funds, please just, anything you can give, $1, $10, $5, whatever. But every amount counts. So thanks for continuing to support the GoFundMe and remembering Mikey Sutton back then.
Always. I will always continue. I'm always happy to do that. And what up, Brogu?
Hey, Brogu.
You're right. Mikey was a great guy. And saying hi to Josh, and as
Hey.
Brogu saw, your brother is on Josh's shirt.
Yeah, there he is. There's a reason I got this on, and we'll talk about that later. Got a little bit of Ahsoka. This is actually Anakin's, but somebody has a blue lightsaber now, so.
Ahsoka actually does have a blue lightsaber at the end of Clone Wars. In the final arc of Clone Wars, Anakin gives Ahsoka the Siege of Mandalore.
Oh,
Anakin gives Ahsoka a blue lightsaber, so not completely inaccurate there.
Green to blue to white, so we got all the little spectrum.
Green, blue to red with the red taken out, because I think that's what they technically are.
Yeah, bled, cleansed, or whatever they call them.
So we're going to start with the hardest topic for me to talk about, because I have to admit I was wrong. With Marok, a duck was just a duck. He did, in fact, die in episode 4. He was not Ezra Bridger. I was wrong about that. I have to admit that. What up, Qatar? I was dead set wrong. I will take the L on this one. Ezra Bridger was not Marok. I don't even remember how you say that name. It's been 4 episodes.
Yeah, a little bit of a bait and switch, but I thought it led to good chatter, in my opinion.
Yeah, and here's the thing. The showrunners never really promised us anything. That was just fans speculating. I mean, the showrunners can't be held responsible for the fans speculating. This isn't a Ralph Boner situation where they literally set it up to be Quicksilver and we're like, haha, just kidding. There's no excuse for that one. WandaVision writers, there's no excuse for that one. This Marok thing is not the same thing. But overall, I guess, what do you think about, other than just the fact that I was wrong, what do you think about Ezra's return? The actor, how he's been living. Like, again, we're covering all 3 episodes together on these topics. So,
yeah. So his return was at the end of 6, Far, Far Away.
yes.
And I'll be honest. When I first saw the trailer for Ahsoka, you see the hologram, and I was like, "Oh my God, is that Ezra?" So I got excited. And then I think we see the hologram in the first episode, right, of Ezra?
Yes.
So for some reason, I was a little underwhelmed by the look of the hologram. I was like, I don't know. Like, I was kind of like looking at it and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. It just, I don't know if like translating the Rebels character model to live action, I just kind of had like a little, but it was a hologram, so I didn't judge it too harshly, but I wasn't sold completely. However, when you see him in 6, it was a little like, I was like happy, but I was a little thrown back because he was kind of older, right?
Yeah.
But once you start to hear him talk, in my opinion, seeing him progress through 6, 7, and 8, the actor is perfect. Perfect. Like literally a physical translation of the cartoon to live action, in my opinion. And I like props to the casting director, because in my opinion, like not everyone is 100% perfect in the show, but honestly, for me, I think Ezra is. So I was ecstatic. How did you feel about seeing him in 6?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was so cool to finally see him in person. And there was some stuff I had to get over a little bit. Like in the cartoon, his hair looked more purple to me than the show does. And I think his eye color's blue in the cartoon. But some stuff like that you can kind of get over a little bit. I don't know why they made his eye color blue though, if he's supposed to be brown. I don't know if brown people can have blue eye colors. I don't know genetics on that one, so.
Well, it's a galaxy far, far away, so.
Yeah, fair enough.
Things look a little different.
Fair enough. I'll give you that one. But yeah, overall, I really loved his return though. It was, and little details like he still has that scar from
Mhm.
when the Grand Inquisitor scarred him in season 1 of Rebels, and he just the way this actor acts, like this really feels like a wise Ezra because at the end of because you think look at Ezra Bridger in the beginning he's just kind of this kid who breaks rules to survive, who kind of is out for himself, and then slowly and slowly he's out to save the galaxy, and he becomes a much more wise Jedi. And in living amongst the people, or not the people, those turtle thingies, just having to really survive on his own, and he just really came out stronger as a result of it. I really loved it, and and the way he kind of was able to get right back into things, and we'll talk about the actual episode 7 lightsaber fights later on, but the way he kind of fights without a lightsaber, and then his chemistry with Hun Young, how he constructs his own lightsaber, and in episode 8 in that conversation, and just he's really right back into the swing of things. He is just remains a badass in this series.
I agree, and to me, what was so shocking was that I can't recall. Okay, I'm trying to remember because obviously Rebels happens before the original trilogy, the OT, right? So, how many years did the OT span? Because this show takes place 5 years, or Mandalorian takes place 5 years after the OT. So I don't know how many years through Mandalorian season 1 and Ahsoka there are. So I'm gonna guess like between like 8, maybe 8 to 10 years, maybe from when the last time we saw Ezra.
Yeah, because it's hard because like episode 5 itself, I think, takes place over the course of 3 months at least. So,
Okay,
and that's like
so
one episode.
yes,
I think episode 6 is, I think, 1 or 2 years later, and episode 5 is, let's see,
regardless, like while you look that up, what I was gonna say is that
four
this
years.
actor, 4 years, okay. So this actor, in my opinion, nailed like let's go off of what we know. Like Ezra's been stranded in this new galaxy, right? And kind of fended for himself. And although he is older and appears to be older, he still captures the actor portrays the boyish nature and the lightheartedness that Ezra has. And I don't know what we don't know what all he's interacted, what he's gone through, what adventures he's had in this time, but in my opinion, this actor embodied that childhood eagerness that Ezra had the last time we saw him, and someone who selfishly sacrificed themselves to save everyone in in our galaxy, and went
Selflessly.
to another. Yeah, yeah. So this actor, I'm trying to look at. I was looking for his name. For some reason, I can't find it. But whoever he is, props, because I thought he did an amazing job. I didn't have like I said, I when I saw the hologram, I wasn't the most like sold, but seeing the actor talk and interact with other characters and just that earnestness that Ezra had was fully realized in the best way for me. What did you think about his translation?
Oh, it was perfect, honestly. Is the way that because Ezra always was, even at the end, he was always kind of eager. He was always well. Like here's a great example actually. When in episode 8, when Ezra sneaks on Thrawn's ship and he kind of does that impersonation of one of the clones, that's
Yeah,
something that Ezra did exactly. I think of episode of season 4 of Rebels. It was he was playing that blonde-haired commander in the Empire before Saw Gerrera kills him. I can't think of his name. He was a minor character. He was in like 4 episodes, but it reminded me of that scene. And it just
okay.
he
Yeah.
he portrayed the mannerisms really, really well in this, and because it's hard to do. It's hard when you get another actor to play the same character.
I agree. And the casting director, I found his name, Iman Esfandi. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Knocked it out of the park, like props. He must have literally watched every single Rebels episode, in my opinion, because he got the mannerisms, the inflection in the voice, the tone of the voice perfectly. And when you do see them ultimately come together, the three, Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra, it just felt like live action Rebels, in my opinion. It was like the gang's all here, reunited with lightsabers.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking, and you know who else kind of does a really good job of imitating their cartoon animated series counterparts? Hayden Christensen. That recording at the very beginning of episode 7 where he's training Ahsoka when he does those Ahsoka recordings, like that was the Clone Wars Anakin 100%. Like right the way he says, or at least do it more than I do. The way that Hayden Christensen delivers that line just shows that like how good of an actor he is when he's given better material. I'm gonna say something. I've said this last Ahsoka show, I think. I'm gonna say it this show. Dave Filoni did a better job with Hayden Christensen than George Lucas. Dave Filoni did a better job with Hayden Christensen than George Lucas. Dave Filoni did a better job with Hayden Christensen than George Lucas. Sorry, Fandom Menace. I know you like to blindly hate Dave Filoni because he works for Disney now, but no, I'm sorry. I mean, I always said the issues with Hayden Christensen in the prequels was never Hayden Christensen. The issue was always the director, was always George Lucas. And I have great respect for George Lucas, just to clarify. Make no mistake. I think he's done a lot of great stuff for Star Wars. But I'm also not going to act like, because he's the creator, that everything he did was gold. Like, some of the dialogue he gave Hayden Christensen was not good. I don't hate the sand line. I think that line gets way overhated, honestly. But without going too far off of the tangent, in this scene right there, like Hayden Christensen is like the Jedi that we were supposed to see, the Jedi who fell to the dark side. But like, why it's tragic that Anakin fell to the dark side, because Clone Wars fills that gap in. You feel for Anakin more, you respect Anakin more, and Hayden Christensen in that recording does a great job showing that Jedi that we all respect, that we all want to look up to. That was the Anakin we should have seen in the prequel trilogy, and we saw it here in Ahsoka.
I agree with you, like, honestly, because Lucas himself, I mean, he said that he didn't really like working with actors, you know, and that kind of, I think, springs from probably working with, you know, Harrison Ford, and we've heard things about him being difficult, you know, primarily on the Star Wars original trilogy set. And Carrie Fisher, I know he was a little ruffled some feathers. So also, you know, Hayden was young, I think. He was like, what, 25 when he did Revenge of the Sith, I think, something like that. So let's be honest, in the role that he's playing somebody who's kind of a younger person, but also mentoring a younger Padawan. So the man now, Hayden Christensen, is a father, and he has that perspective and that parental affection in his voice when he's speaking. And that scene, like seeing him, and that was in 7, I believe, when we see her Ahsoka training and that hologram, just literally, just once again, I've said this on your last stream, like, for me, Clone Wars and Rebels is what saved my Star Wars fandom after a certain movie that was divisive. And it really, for me, Matt Latner is Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars series. That was my Anakin for the longest time, because we didn't get to see an Anakin mentor a younger Padawan in the prequel trilogy, right? The prequels is what brought me into Star Wars. I love the original trilogy, of course, but I didn't really get interested in it until Revenge of the Sith. I literally rented as a kid or my parents did, I think, Phantom Menace, episode 1. And I remember watching it and not like all the political stuff and whatever, it went over my head, you know? And even though there was a kid in it, I had no freaking idea his name was Skywalker. Like, I don't even know, like, I was just oblivious, you know? I was like, oh, I'm going to put on Batman again. You know, I just like changed the channel. And then, so when Revenge of the Sith came out, I rewatched 1 and 2, and I was like, oh. And so I love Darth Vader. I love that character, even though I didn't really like, I liked the OT, but I was more a Darth Vader fan. And then watching Clone Wars, for me, it was like a composite. Like, I was like, okay, Anakin's the live action. Matt Latner is really my Anakin. Now I'm getting to see Hayden Christensen, not only in Obi-Wan, but also in Ahsoka, be the mentor, fatherly figure, the master Jedi that he is, even though he's not granted the rank. But yes, like this was just, it was 100% fan service, but that scene brought me so much joy. And just knowing that not only did we see him in 7, but we also briefly in 8, it just gives me so much hope, and it brings me so much joy that it seems like Filoni has made Hayden a fan of this character once again. I'm sure he always was, but, you know, based on the reaction of the fans, it probably bruised his ego a bit, you know? But now I think he's 100% in for whatever. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Hayden to see that redemption, because his whole arc as Vader, as Anakin Skywalker, is all about redemption, right? And so now the actor has the redemption that he deserves.
Exactly. And
My guy.
Ahsoka Sky Guy. And just seeing the Force Ghost at the end. Now, I'll be honest, if that was the only thing we saw of Hayden Christensen, that would have been the lamest thing ever. But because we saw him at the end of episode 4, we saw him for basically all of episode 5, and we saw him at the beginning of episode 7, I thought that was kind of a great way to wrap up the series. Just nothing more than him looking like a proud master for his Padawan. Because here's the thing, George Lucas went out of his way to make Hayden Christensen the Force Ghost in Return of the Jedi. And again, I don't remember if I said this on the last stream, but George Lucas did that in a very poor way. He took Hayden Christensen's head, put it on Sebastian Shaw's body, and slimmed down the shoulders. That's how they did the Force Ghost in Return of the Jedi, where here, it's actually Hayden Christensen filming the scene. So, and, you know, he doesn't have that creepy look as he does Return of the Jedi, because he wasn't actually filming a scene of being a proud father. Whereas here in this scene, he's proud of Snips. He is proud of his Snips for doing everything that he has taught Ahsoka. And we'll kind of get into this more at the end when we talk about season 2, because I definitely think that's happening now. But I really do hope that we see a scene of just present day Anakin Ghost and Ahsoka having a conversation. Because I would love to hear, I mean, the whole, like, address the fact that last time Anakin saw her while he was alive, he tried to kill her. He 100% tried to kill her. And, I mean, it seems from the Ahsoka series that she's forgiven Anakin Skywalker, or at least chooses to remember Anakin as who he was before Vader, but doesn't seem to hold any ill will towards him being one of the most evil men in the galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, I heard some commentary from people, I guess, when they saw 5, 6, and 7 before they saw the finale, that were saying, "Oh no, that wasn't really Anakin. That was just in Ahsoka's mind. It wasn't the world between." Okay. And I was like, I clearly now watching the finale, that, I mean, to me, it's clear that was Anakin. Anakin is redeemed. This is the Anakin that we saw at the end of the original trilogy as a Force Ghost, because he knows everything that's happened. He's been there. He's lived through it. He was the one who was fighting Ahsoka and Rebels. You know, he was the one who was there. He was the one who saved his son's life and just killed the Emperor and sacrificed himself, you know? So, yeah. And I also, this might be jumping ahead too far, I get the sense, like, seeing him at the end, I get the sense it's for a reason. Like, the reason why a Force Ghost is, like, in another galaxy watching over a Padawan is, I think, you know, it's kind of like he's gonna be more in the series or movie or whatever. But there's a reason. There's a reason why he's watching over his Padawan. You know, there's a reason that they're removed from the galaxy. Ezra and Thrawn are back. Spoiler alert, but you know, Sabine and Ahsoka and Baylan and Shin are not. And I think it's all for a reason. So possibilities are exciting. So I love Force Ghost Anakin Skywalker so much. Sky guy.
It was so great seeing Hayden Christensen again. And you know, there's actually in these 3 episodes, there's another original trilogy actor, or I guess another, I should say, Hayden wasn't in the original trilogy aside from Return of the Jedi, but another Skywalker saga actor was actually in Ahsoka. Hera's hearing, you got Anthony Daniels, that's his name, right? Anthony Daniels.
Yes, sir.
As C3PO, which again, he's on the few actors who actually voiced his character in Clone Wars from the movies. So seeing him back was not a surprise. And I thought that was such a good way to do this. Because here's one thing that always kind of gets me with people. People are so quick to say they should recast the original characters, like the Luke, Leia, and Han for Ahsoka. And I'm like, why would you recast Leia for a 3-minute cameo? I mean, part of like the impact sometimes is having the actors, especially actors who are very established in their role. I mean, I nothing happened in this series where I'm like, oh yeah, they would have been so much better if they recast Luke or recast Han or Leia. I'm like, this was such a perfect way to do it. Is that you had an actor, one who was still alive, but one that actually made sense to come. Was Anthony Daniels as C3PO. It was the perfect way to kind of not have to have Leia there, but at the same time, something that's still a treat for the fans. But one that was fan service for the story, not just fan service for the sake of it, but it made perfect sense. We knew that Leia would have Hera's back, so this would be a way that Leia would save Hera. There, because also don't forget, Leia met Hera in Rebels, in an anime, which again, on clarify, it's different recasting someone in an animated series for just their voice as it is for live action before people try to use that argument. No, but Leia met Hera and the whole Rebels crew in Rebels, or the Ghost crew, I should say, in Rebels. So it makes sense that she would send C3PO to help her, and that was such. I guess what I'm going on. What are your thoughts on that, Josh?
No, so the first time, so I watched these episodes 6 and 7 twice. I think I told you initially, of course, I watched them, and then I watched them again before the finale. So the first time I watched this was in 7, right?
Yes.
Yes, 7. So I got up because I thought it was going to be a slow part. So I literally I have a couch, and then I have like an island, and so I have a kitchen. So I got up to get a snack or a drink or something, and so I had my back turned slightly to the TV, and I heard the voice, and I was like, I looked, like I literally like a deer in the headlights. I looked, I was like, is that who I think it is? And then it came onto the frame, and I was like, ah! And I started running across the room, the living room. It brought me so much joy. I will be honest. The first time I watched it, I was like, this is 100% fan service. It's unnecessary because I think in Rebels, wasn't there like a similar plot point where C3PO shows up as a hologram for Leia or something like that?
No, what happened in Rebels, what happened was that C3PO was working undercover for Senator Organa with R2D2 for
But
the
he showed up
Prime
in
Minister.
person.
Yes. So this was the first time they did a scene this was the first time that Leia sent C3PO in her place that we saw. The first time was in Ahsoka.
So then I rewatched it. So the first time I was so filled with so much joy, but I was kind of like, not knowing how it was going to end or what was going to happen next. I was just kind of like, this kind of seems unnecessary, but I loved it regardless, but I could see how people would have problems with it. But when I rewatched it, I agree with what you're saying more. Like watching the scene again, because that one senator or whatever it was, you know, the clearly Senator Douche,
And
you
then Mon
know,
Mothma.
I think Leia probably has a lot like Mon Mothma telling her, like, you know, what's going on. So it would make sense, I think, for C-3PO to be there in person on behalf of, you know, Leia. And who's to say that, you know, the story is here, of course, in this series is not done. So now Hera kind of has somebody in her corner, because I did have, we'll get to that, you know, we'll get to that character, but I do kind of feel like Hera needs to be expanded upon in the movie or the season 2 or whatever. And I think having somebody to support her like C-3PO was a good move, in my opinion. So hopefully he shows up more, but even if he doesn't, it still made an impact in that scene and supporting not only Hera, but the rebels in general, the whole crew, you know. Leia is helping everyone from afar, you know. So I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
I really did too. And this was fan service that worked for the story. Again, people try to use fan service as a way to knock something cool that happened, when in reality, sometimes fan service is not always bad people. And in this fan service, in my opinion, worked. But not just C-3PO, even what I liked about this series, it really shows how the issues with the New Republic. I mean, Mon Mothma knew. Like, you could, like, after the conversation, she flat out admitted to Hera, yeah, Leia didn't really assign you to this mission. That's totally bullshit. But as long as she has that plausible deniability, she doesn't care. Because Mon Mothma redeemed herself to me. Because at first I'm like, why is Mon Mothma acting this way? But I see why now. Is that she's a leader, yes, but she can't just make exceptions for her friends. It's not a good look to maintain her leadership. So you had Senator Douche, who I think is actually a double agent, if you ask me. I think he's working for the Empire or the First Order, whatever you want to call it now in this in-betweeny phase. But I think that Senator Douche was trying to get Hera banned, and Mon Mothma was doing everything she could, but her hands were tied. So when C-3PO kind of gave her, like, oh, Leia assigned her this mission, Hera had permission. Mon Mothma knew it was bullshit, but she didn't care. It was good enough. And she even told Hera that, hey, you know, I'm behind the scenes, I'm here for you. I'm listening to what you are concerned about. And that's why I really like this scene, not just for the C-3PO cameo, but it really redeemed Mon Mothma to me, because I had an issue with her in episode 5. And in episode, I don't think she was in episode 4, but in episode 5, but this scene saved it for me.
Agreed. Like I the same. I felt the same way. Like she was acting a tad like, you know, like she was working almost like, was she a spy? You know, is she a spy? Is she, you know, an insurgent? But you're right. I mean, now that we saw that scene and how it played out, you know, the way she whispers to Hera and just like, you know, what is the, you know, tell me, like, honestly, what do you think, you know, about Thrawn's return? It shows that she still has that loyalty to the, you know, the good side, the light side, the Republic.
Exactly. And she's just in a difficult situation, but it really just shows the issues with the New Republic. You see more issues about how the New Republic fell, because as much as I would love them to say the sequels are not canon, the bit of a tongue twister here. The late great Mikey Sutton said that you cannot make something non-canon because it was not good. It's a bad precedent. All you can do is build better material around it. And this is what it seems like they're doing here, is that because for better or for worse, the sequel trilogy is there. As much as I try to say it's not canon, I will at times admit that it is canon. And Dave Filoni is doing the best he can to work with that and at least try to make it more believable so that it doesn't feel as bad for what happened. Kind of like how in the prequel trilogy, people say that Anakin's turn to the dark side was rushed, but it makes a lot more sense if you watch Clone Wars. It's kind of that same thing here, is they're using the series to kind of fill in the missing gaps so that the sequel trilogy doesn't seem as bad. Maybe, you know, maybe we'll even at some point get a better explanation than somehow Palpatine returned. So
Yeah. That's
I
kind of
really,
yeah. Go ahead.
I say so. Yeah, that's why I really like that scene, to see the senators disagreeing and having some snakes in the New Republic. So
I just wanted to note. I looked up the Senator Douche. Senator Hamoto Inayo. I don't know how to pronounce that with the X. So I apologize. He's Taiwanese. So apparently, this character appeared in the Star Wars Resistance show animated series.
oh, he did.
Yeah,
I saw that one. I don't remember him.
the father of a resistance operative. Um, so it's the same actor who does the voiceover. He looks different. Like
Oh.
I'm looking. I didn't watch Resistance. I think I watched the first episode. But yeah, it's the same actor apparently, and he looks different. He didn't have in the show. He didn't have facial hair or longer hair. So I guess they're showing that time passed. It's kind of cool.
Oh, damn, it's really cool. I mean, like, so I saw all of Resistance, and to be honest, it was kind of a guilty pleasure for me. It was like a series that I knew wasn't good, but I enjoyed it anyways. And it was actually right when I was furloughed from my job because of COVID. So, like, right when
Mm.
that happened, right when I was still getting the federal pandemic relief fund, so that I didn't have to work at that point in time. I just had all this vacation time essentially. So I managed to watch that whole Resistance series in 2 days because I just at that point I just didn't have anything else to do at the time. So yeah, I saw
I'm,
all of Resistance.
I'm looking at
And again,
his credits, and there's a lot of how many seasons is Resistance? Because he's in a lot of episodes.
it was only he's in a lot of episodes, really. It was 2 episodes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, it says parentheses mentioned. Okay, mentioned. Okay, he's mentioned in a lot. Appears in hologram. Mentioned. Okay, you're right.
Huh.
He only appears in 2, but he's mentioned a lot. So he's a big player
Okay.
in that series, which I think is awesome. Like, the reason I'm wearing this is because y'all, like, this is literally an expanded universe story. Like, it really is. So if you didn't do your research, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, that's the thing with the series, is that the series is like, I think the series is a little bit more for the general than just general audience. Like, I understand the movies shouldn't need a syllabus, but I do think some of these series, yeah, there's some stuff that you kind of need to watch. And yeah, I mean, definitely, we'll kind of talk about this at the end, but yeah, I definitely could see why someone who didn't watch Clone Wars or Rebels wasn't a big fan of Ahsoka. I could see that, honestly, but we'll get into that later. So, this is a common theme with these Disney series. Lately, it seems like these Disney shows love to do episodes of where the main character is barely in or not in it at all. Book of Boba Fett. 2 episodes were really Mandalorian episodes. Between 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett, he had a cameo. Between the two, in 1 episode, he had a cameo. And it was all about Din Djarin, who already has his own show. And then you had Mandalorian, where Din Djarin takes a backseat to the doctor and Moff Gideon's henchwoman person. So now it seems like this series is continuing that fun tradition of having a main character not in their episode. And I'll be honest, I didn't like it in Boba Fett. I didn't like it in Mandalorian because it didn't pay off. But here in Ahsoka, my thoughts, I did not mind it because you know why it was different? Is that the characters who were in this series at least were already supporting characters in Ahsoka. In Book of Boba Fett, you had Din Djarin, who already had his own show. In Mandalorian, yeah, you had people who were technically in Mandalorian, but they were barely in the series. Hardly enough to warrant getting their own episode. That didn't really pay off. That was basically, as again, if you watch Pitch Meeting for Mandalorian season 3, the intern guy who got coffee, bit of an esoteric reference, but that was a funny pitch meeting. Anyways, back to my point. In Ahsoka, Sabine was in every episode but episode 5 of Ahsoka. The main series antagonists were in it. The whole series was about finding Thrawn or stopping the guys from finding Thrawn. So showing Thrawn was essential to the story. The point is that even though Ahsoka's only in the introduction, which that scene, let's be honest, only existed so that they would have Ahsoka in an episode of Ahsoka, even though they didn't do that for Book of Boba Fett. But anyways, she wasn't in it, yes, but barely in it. But what's different again about Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian is they actually used characters from Ahsoka for the whole episode and played on essential storylines. Plus, you also showed Thrawn in live action for the first time by Lars Mikkelsen or Mikkelsen. I don't know how you pronounce that, but and we'll definitely get into more of that later. So at least they had worthy content where I felt like, okay, it made sense actually for Ahsoka to barely have any screen time in this episode. I guess, what are your thoughts on that, Josh?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It didn't bother me. However, I have overall in general, I have heard from people that this show should have just been called Rebels, and I do kind of agree because you are kind of like it in 6. The topic we're talking about. It made sense to me for it to not be focused on Ahsoka because she got primarily the focus in 5, which is where we saw Anakin come back, right? So we saw, I think, Sabine leaving the galaxy at the end of 4 or at the beginning of 5, I can't remember. So we needed to catch up and see what was going on with Sabine and also figure out what the hell's going on with Ezra, because we were like 3 episodes after 5. We were like, all right, we got 3 more episodes and that's it. So I kind of agree with people that it should be called Rebels, but you got to think about it as a marketing perspective. Like, I don't know what the views were, but I don't think a ton of people, I would say more people probably watched Clone Wars than Rebels, in my opinion, from what I understand.
Yes, definitely.
So if you were to call it Rebels and people knew that there was a show based on it, they might not, be like, oh, okay, it's just a continuation of that show. By calling it Ahsoka, one, let's be honest, is Dave Filoni's baby. One of the coolest characters in Star Wars that more people need to know about, in my opinion. And it just makes sense, and it's more interesting, in my opinion, to focus it around an iconic actress like Rosario Dawson, because she is the star of the show. Let's be honest. She's the name. All these other actors are not really big names other than Mary Elizabeth Winston, I would say. Dan Stevenson's maybe a little bit, but people don't really know that character. So to focus it around Rosario Dawson, who is one of the best characters, Ahsoka Tano, Snips herself, I think makes sense. But yeah, I didn't care because like we had talked about in our review of 4 and 5, like I wanted to see what was going on with Ezra and Thrawn. I was like, all right, let's go. And we knew that Ahsoka had to get to Sabine and Ezra and Thrawn, but we needed to know what was happening on the other side of the galaxy. So I didn't mind it. And I loved that it was kind of bookend by Hu Yang and Ahsoka talking about once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away, because that's what literally was happening. Sabine and, Baylan Skoll and Morgan Elsbeth, and they were all doing their little shenanigans in a galaxy far, far away. Saying.
Exactly. And I still think Ahsoka was the main character in this series, even though there was one episode that she was barely in. The other episode, she was clearly the main character. And here's the thing. If they called it Rebels, then people would have complained that you didn't see Hera enough in the series. People would have complained that Zeb didn't appear at all in the series. So if you called it So by calling it Ahsoka, you can get away with it. Like, it's just cool they had all these Rebels Easter eggs. Where if it was called Rebels, it would have missed too much. So
no Kanan, no Inquisitors. So
exactly. I mean, unless you consider those Baylan and crew were not Inquisitors. They were something else. We'll get into those guys later on. But yeah, overall, I didn't really have any issues with this. But I wanted to bring it up because I knew this would be a complaint that a lot of people had. But overall, I think it worked for the story. Because if you're gonna do my 2 main rules is I say if you're gonna do an episode that barely has the main character, it has to be supporting characters who are already part of the series, and it has to advance the story. They did both, so in my opinion, it worked. and then we saw more Ahsoka in the next 2 episodes. So unlike Book of Boba Fett, where you had a whole episode without Boba Fett, and they gave us another episode where he just has a cameo. So again, this is not the same thing as Book of Boba Fett. So now I kind of want to let Josh start this next topic. What was your opinion on all the fight scenes, the lightsaber fight scenes in episode 7?
First of all, I was geeking out. I was like, oh my god, like the way that the like we see it in 3, I think, when Ahsoka, or is it 4? When Ahsoka and Sabine are teaming up against the robots.
4.
Yeah, it was 4.
She wasn't in episode 5.
And to see Ezra, Ahsoka, and Sabine with their lightsabers out, in my opinion, previous topic, makes so much sense. This is Ahsoka Tano, the Jedi Master. She's gotten over all of the baggage, emotional baggage that she had with Anakin. She's gotten over it. So now she's ascended. Sorry, that quote no longer applies. I am no Jedi. Girl, you're a Jedi Master now because you tearing up these fools. I loved it. I was so excited. I was geeking out on my couch right there, Bad Dad. I was literally screaming and they had like a little scene where Ezra is because it was kind of a little underwhelming and it was 7, right, where Sabine is trying to give him their lightsaber and he's like, no, you take it, right? It was 7 when
Yeah, that was episode 7, which that would have been a cool fight scene if Ezra didn't get knocked out. Like, I like the idea of Ezra fighting, not needing his lightsaber, but then he got taken out. So I'm like, if you're gonna have Ezra like do a stupid gamble, it has to pay off, or else he just looks stupid. So that's one thing I am going to criticize. I mean, in episode 8, he clearly realized that he needed a lightsaber, so he didn't. So,
but a lot of time had passed, right? And in a way, like I think he sensed in through the Force that was now Sabine's journey. She had already kind of bonded and started to kind of go through the Jedi way with that lightsaber. So it made sense to me seeing him in 8 construct his own lightsaber as a way to be like, okay, now this is mine. I'm a different person. I'm the same person, but I've matured now. And it shows his progression now. You know, the green, which is normally, in my opinion, the starting point for a Jedi, went to Sabine. And he is now a blue because he's more experienced. So seeing them all together, I was geeking out. What did you think of the action?
Oh, I love the action. Just the way it switches from Ahsoka fighting Baylan to Sabine and Ezra fighting Shin Hati. It was just I love the choreography. I love the just like the music that was kind of playing during that. It was classic Star Wars right there. It was a classic Star Wars lightsaber fight because one thing that the sequel trilogy lacked was good lightsaber fights, and here you had it again, and I was freaking out the whole time. I'll be honest, I was kind of hoping in that lightsaber fight that Ahsoka was going to kill Baylan so that we wouldn't have to worry about what they're going to do without Ray Stevenson. And we'll definitely talk more about that later on. But yeah, I really did like that. I really did like that fight scene. It was just so much great stuff happening. The way that Sabine and Ezra were working together to fight Shin Hati, and then eventually when all 3 of them are kind of gang up on Shin Hati and she just leaves.
Yeah. She's like, I gotta go. And the thing about we had talked about, I wanted to kind of correct now that we're talking about lightsabers. I'm guessing Baylan and Shin Hati's are supposed to be red lightsabers.
Oh, they are?
I guess, like, from what I understand, I've just been maybe hearing a bunch of people say, oh, they're red. But in my perspective, the Merrick or whatever lightsaber that looked like an Inquisitor looked a little bit more redder than the ones that Shin and... So I don't know. Regardless, I loved just that, like you said, the classic, this was, like... I like the lightsaber fights in the sequel trilogy, but this feels more like Star Wars. All of this action in this series. Definitely. 100%. Feels like the George Lucas classic samurai type, and they're being trained by somebody who was raised in the Jedi Academy. So it makes sense, right? That like Rey and wouldn't really, have that type of finesse and skill as somebody who was literally taught by a master and someone who taught them by a master and blah, blah, blah.
I get that excuse in episode 7. I don't get that excuse in episode 9, though. She had Leia.
True.
So, but I get your point, though. There was a bit of a difference right there, but still, the lightsaber fights in this series were great, and episode 7 was no exception. I loved the lightsaber fights. It was so badass. But there is an issue I kind of now have. Now that the whole series, we've watched the whole series, because at first with this topic right here, at first my logic was, let's wait to see how this plays out. Maybe there's a reason that Ahsoka is training Sabine. But one issue I now have is that we see no reason for Ahsoka to have trained Sabine. Like, I was hoping there was going to be some flashback where Sabine showed actual force potential, and that's why Ahsoka trained her. But now, because we didn't see any of that, it now came off as Sabine, like, anyone can use the force if they're trained, and that's just not how I don't know. The way it just came off, and all of a sudden in episode 8, she's just able to get her lightsaber and she's able to throw Ezra across the ship, which, okay, just real quick, that was not a fucking Mary Poppins scene. I don't know how that Mary Poppins comment came about. Now, if you want to criticize the scene of Sabine force pushing Ezra because she shouldn't be strong enough to do that yet, fine. That's a fair criticism. Even I kind of had that criticism. But it was not a Mary Poppins scene. I swear I've seen this in Clone Wars, force pushing other people. This is not a new thing. It's Jedi working together. It was actually kind of cool. But how that scene gets hated, to me, was literally people, for the Mary Poppins thing, was literally people saying, this series has to be bad. It has to be bad. Oh, that looks like Mary Poppins right there. Yeah, we'll just say that.
Wait,
No.
are you talking about in The Last Jedi? Or are you talking about something in the series?
The finale, episode 8.
When Sabine pushes Ezra?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're gonna have to give me. I'll be honest, I haven't really paid attention to the Phantom Menace and what they're saying. So, if they said that looks like Mary Poppins, I don't understand that. But
Basically, it was a Twitter that showed that. Yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly what it was.
Going back to what you said about Sabine, I took this as my perspective. I had mentioned to you previously about how I felt when Jason was reaching Ahsoka or hearing Ahsoka that Hera had a connection with her son, and therefore the Force was going into her son, but she had a connection with her son, so therefore she kind of like admitted that. When Ahsoka reaches out to Sabine, I did kind of feel like that was a way to awaken the Force within Sabine. So I didn't really mind how she kind of just, like, in my opinion, Sabine's Force is connected through her connection with her master. So when they're at odds and Ahsoka walked away from her because of, all the insecurity she had about it, it kind of caused Sabine to retreat into herself and reject that new side of her and go back to her Mandalorian side. When she thought Ahsoka was dead, and I do have a criticism a little bit about how Ezra I think it's in 7, asked about Ahsoka, and then she's like, oh yeah, it's complicated. I was like, if she thinks she's dead, which I don't think she did technically. She did, but I don't think she really did, because I think she still had that Force connection a little bit. She didn't know for sure until Ahsoka called out to her to confirm. And so when she did in my opinion, that's what made Sabine kind of like, my master believes in me. She's coming from, and it kind of reinstilled that Force connection into her. So that's how I kind of took it. So it didn't really come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's you kind of got to be careful how far you go with that, though, because then any Jedi could have a connection to someone, and anyone can use the Force. So it's kind of you gotta be careful with that. And I think I would have been fine with the connection, with what you said, that connection working, if she had some connection with the Force. At least with Hera, she's related to Jason by blood. So at least there's like a reason why a minor, and she can just see something. That's different than like using the Force. But here it's like she can use the Force through a connection alone, when I feel like no, she needed just again, just a 10-second backstory, just a 10-second flashback of Sabine doing something quick like a Jedi that Ahsoka sees. Maybe on the Battle of Mandalore, when Sabine tries to save her parents and she does something out of adrenaline, like maybe she force pushes something with adrenaline, but that was a one-time thing, and then Ahsoka seeing that in her rage, sensing Sabine's rage, and knowing she has force potential, decides to harness that in Sabine. If they just done something like that, that would have helped. Because I did like those moments that we saw. Like I did like when I would have liked her grabbing the lightsaber the way she did in episode 8 if that was built up better. I still think it was a little too early to have her be able to force push Ezra. But I still the concept of it is cool, Jedi working together. And it kind of reminds me, remember when Ahsoka and Anakin blow up that wall on Geonosis and they push Rex down, like Rex comes to help them, and then Ahsoka and Anakin just push Rex off the wall, and Rex just screams while the other two jump.
Yeah.
That was, I don't know, it kind of reminded me of that in a way too, where, I mean, it's different because at least Ezra was in on the plan, whereas Ahsoka and Anakin were just like, oh, surprise, we're force pushing you off the wall. But yeah, I think it's one of those things that it needed a bit of a better backstory, but I think the moments, but as you said, I do like what you said about her connection to Ahsoka making a difference, where when she's connected to her more, she's able to harness the Force more, which is funny because maybe the Jedi's rule about attachment, it kind of shows why the Jedi were kind of corrupt in a way. They're like, oh, attachment, don't have attachment. Attachment is bad. But you see in Clone Wars, they make stupid decisions through not having attachment. It's how Ahsoka got expelled from the Jedi Order on circumstantial evidence. Whereas Anakin, being the one who was attached, actually found the traitor. And here it's the same thing. It's like Sabine having that attachment to Ahsoka saved Sabine's life. It's how Sabine was able to have that connection to the Force. So, yeah, I mean, again, I really liked what you said right there, how the connection really helped Sabine. I still think it needed that bit of a potential. Just, again, it doesn't take that long, just 10 seconds, and maybe season 2 can explain that more. But overall, I like what they did, but I think it needed to be set up better. That's kind of my final thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, I could see that. I think if it would have helped, because I took the dialogue, I think when Ahsoka is explaining to Ezra about what happened in Mandalore and her parents. Or she's
Yes, I think so.
So I just kind of took it as, okay, Sabine.
Oh, it was Hung Yang who explained it.
Yeah. I took it as, okay, well then, if Sabine doesn't have parents, she looks at Ahsoka as like a parental figure, and therefore the attachment. But it would kind of make sense to have a flashback scene of Mandalore where that happened, and Ahsoka maybe like, preventing her or something, so I could see that.
Yeah, so again, just maybe in season 2, maybe can fix this, and we'll definitely get more into the season 2 topic, but Shin Hati, what do you think about this character in these last 3 episodes?
So the way, I guess it's in 7? Yeah, 7, where essentially like Baylan kind of like writes her off and is just kind of like, hey, you're on your own. Like I got stuff to do, and you're trained to be something more. I liked her. I would have liked a little bit more. Baylan is just the more of the two. Obviously, he's just more the fascinating one because he doesn't play. He's keeping his cards close to his chest, right? And he's not revealing all. So Shin is kind of like, it's fascinating what she is because he says, "No, I trained you to be something more." He said Ezra is not. He's like trained and it's like, oh, he says something like a wild Jedi or something like that. And then she says like me, and he says, "No, I've trained you to be something more, something, different." So, in my opinion, she's interesting, but she still doesn't know, or we haven't heard what she's supposed to be in Baylan's plan. So it makes me interested for sure. I enjoy the actress. I guess she's typically known as online as Shin Hati because people really like her, her aesthetic. And she's very intense. Like her eyes, like I've seen a few clips online of like the actual actress, and she's like super bubbly and like super nice and like totally not. But as this character, she's just so like those eyes are just like piercing, and the rage and the anger in her and the determination. I just would have liked. To me, she's a little bit. I would have liked a little bit more backstory, a little bit more dimension. But hopefully we get that in season 2 or the movie or whatever. I do think now, because of the circumstances, we are going to have a lot more of her because the actor, obviously, of Baylan Skoll is not going to be probably prevalent as much. So I am interested in her. I just she wasn't my favorite character this season, but I liked her.
Yeah,
I like the Sith, so
and that's
whatever they are.
Yeah, the gray Jedi, dark Jedi, I don't know. But I get what you're saying. I do feel like definitely Baylan is the more interesting of the two, and we'll definitely have a lot to say. Make sure I have Baylan. Okay, yes, actually, we'll move that there. Okay, so yeah, I mean Shin Hati is just, again, it's so funny. I'm not trying to say Shin Hati, but it's like the way it's pronounced, it's like
it's kind of makes it easy, right?
Yeah, exactly. But Shin Hati, yeah, she's, if I say it, I say it. I'm not trying to say it like that, but
Fat Dan thinks he's hottie.
But anyway, just I do think you do see a little bit more about her, a little bit more of her questioning things. Like in episode 6, she didn't really seem to like Baylan betraying Sabine. I don't know, like she gave that look when Baylan's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna kill her anyways," because it felt like Sabine, like at first, kind of respected that Baylan was a man of his word, and then Baylan clearly wasn't really. Is that he did just kind of, and like it seemed like Shin Hati actually, just that look she gave, like the actress does a really good job showing that I don't agree with this. This feels wrong. And that's why, I don't know. I don't think this character is gonna necessarily be all bad in season 2, or however they're continuing this character. I don't know. I just feel like there is some good in her. I don't know. I'm calling it now. And episode 7, again, when Baylan just kind of, because I don't think Baylan was necessarily writing her off. I think Baylan is like, hey, our paths part here, and it's more of Baylan knows that she can do it. That's more what it is. It's like when your parents kick you out of the house when you're a certain age. Well, maybe not the best example because certain circumstances maybe are them writing you off, but in theory, it's because they know that they've taught you everything you need to know, and now it's time for you to grow and spread your wings. And I think that's what, I mean, Baylan, and I guess we'll get more to the Baylan topic later. I think that's what Baylan was doing, is that he knows that Shin can do more. And I think we'll see that a lot more. I mean, you see that she's definitely kind of panicked a little bit. Like she's still clearly learning as a Jedi. She's still, or as a dark Jedi, whatever. It's like I don't know, she had that fear look when all of a sudden all three of them were just when Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine just kind of cornered her and she just ran away. So I think I agree, she's not necessarily the most interesting character, but I think that they set enough up with her that I think she will be a more interesting character. And yes, I do think whether they do or don't recast Ray Stevenson or Baylan, I should say, whatever. I still don't think that they're going to use him as much given Ray Stevenson's death. And we'll get, I guess, more into that later. But for Shin's purposes, I do think, yes, I think that she'll definitely get a larger role. And if they maybe, let's say, decide not to recast Baylan and somehow, I don't know, use archive footage of the temple he goes into, like obliterating him, and he like intends to make that sacrifice or something. But like, point is that Shin could have a bigger role in this. So I think there's more things coming for her. So I'm fine with it right now because I think the big focus was Thrawn for these last 3 episodes. I mean, let's be honest, Thrawn was the character that we were all looking forward to, at least for those of us who watched Rebels. So
Agreed.
one character who will not be returning though, Morgan Elsbeth. I have to be honest. At first, I didn't really think much of this character. I thought she was just kind of there, not really contributing much. But these last 3 episodes really sold me on her character. I guess, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, seeing what she becomes, I was freaking out. I was like, I guess you've played the Jedi Fallen Order, Fallen Knight, right?
Fallen Order, yes, I played Fallen Order.
So I guess the Witches of Dathomir, are they in that? Are there a plot point?
Only one's in that, and then she kind of turns good. It's mostly the males, the Darth Maul species, who are using that game. It's only one of the Night Sisters are really in this game, and then she just ends up siding with Caleb.
Okay, so the scene where she transforms, one, it made me so excited to see what her,
Oh, Cal, not Caleb. Just want to correct that real quickly. Go on.
I loved that she was leveling up, but it also made me like the way Thrawn kind of presented her and kind of told her like, oh, we need more time. Like, or no, Thrawn took her to the witches first, and then he's just kind of sitting back and just kind of like, okay, do your thing. And she is so devout to the sisters, the Night Sisters, that this was all, it made me respect Thrawn so much more, and we'll get to him, but also feel a little bad for her because it's just like, girl, I mean, you're giving him everything he wants. You're not even trying, you're so loyal to these Night Sisters and whatnot in this cult, but hey, that's you. But it was exciting to see Thrawn not only his plan come to fruition, but see her play a part that was integral. And for somebody who, like I said, you reminded me, I didn't even remember that she had appeared in Mandalorian in Ahsoka's episode. So this character now has like an arc, which has ended, unfortunately. But it was so awesome to see that it wasn't just some like throwaway character. Like she really had a point in the story. And I liked, like she was pretty cool. Like her fighting, like her. What was the sword? What did they call that? What was it called? That she had. They called it something, but that was awesome. Like her fighting style, she was a badass, whoever that actress was.
Oh yeah, because we knew that she could fight because she fought Ahsoka in the Mandalorian episode. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I really like what they did with her character in these last 3 episodes, is that she really shows how dedicated she is to the cause of the Night Sisters, and that to the point that she was willing, because like she knew that she was going to get stranded on that galaxy. I don't know if she necessarily thought she was going to die, but she knows she at least was going to be stranded in the galaxy, in that distant galaxy. But she was willing to do that for the cause, and it really just shows how dedicated she really is. I remember at first I thought she was going to die the first time the Great Mothers cast put a spell on her. I thought she was going to get incinerated right there for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, I'm like she really turned out to be that badass fighter fighting Ahsoka and Night of the Living Dead with the stormtroopers, which I actually didn't hate that as much as other people did. I mean, people forget that the Night Sisters use magic. That is something that people do if you pay attention to the lore.
I thought it was super refreshing first, and let's be honest, we're in another galaxy, people, so you're gonna see some different stuff. So I thought that was awesome, honestly, and scary. Like, kind of like, the face. Like there was, I guess not the stormtroopers, they're the night troopers, but the other things that are fighting. What are they? You see the faces. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, don't know
Anyways,
what those are called.
the episode in general really just kind of, okay, they're not just stormtroopers. These are a threat, in my opinion. And there's a scene where they're getting cornered and they're trying to, shut the doors and slice the doors so they're shut down. And then one comes from behind Ezra and grabs him, and I was like, "Oh my god, is he gonna start?" I was like, "It's gonna like bite him or something." So it had more of a thrill, and seeing them like, you really had to slice them to make sure that they were not going to come back at you. So they couldn't just be shot or reflected with the lightsaber or anything. So it made it more of a threat, and I thought it was awesome. Morgan had that backup too when she's fighting Ahsoka, and the night troopers come in, and she's just having to like kind of reflect everything. I was like, oh my god, it just shows how badass that Morgan Elsbeth was, but also like Ahsoka too, to still be able to deflect all those shots from those night troopers.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about the finale itself, actually, will be a topic, but yeah, it just shows how powerful Morgan Elsbeth really is. And I think they did the right, I'll put it like this. I'm talking from the perspective of Dave Filoni having no idea that Ray Stevenson was going to die. Talking from that perspective, I think between the three, I think Morgan Elsbeth was the one to kill off. Because I think she told her story was done, and I mean, yes, obviously, if somehow Dave Filoni was able to know that Ray Stevenson was going to die, I don't know, like, how did they say how he died? Was it cancer or something?
Let me see. I
don't know, but like, point is, I mean, if it was something predictable, I could understand, but again, he didn't know.
No cause of death has been revealed, according
and
to.
You know what? If the family wants to keep that private, then they should. That's not. If they choose not to share it, then I totally respect that. But the point is, again, there's no way that Dave Filoni would know. So I think between the three, killing off Morgan Elsbeth did make the most sense. She had her story, and again, talking from before Baylan's death or Ray Stevenson's death, I'm sure Dave Filoni had a lot more to do with Baylan and Shin than he did with Morgan Elsbeth. So I think they really wrapped up her story nicely. I think they really made her more relevant in these 3 episodes, but it kind of led to new interesting characters. If it shows, hold on a second, I'm clicking it and it's not showing. There we are. I don't know why that took me like 3 tries to do. The Great Mothers. What do you think about these characters?
I loved them. I mean, just seeing as somebody who, I don't remember, was the Great Mother in Clone Wars that is the main one working to resurrect Darth Maul and his brother. Did she have a name, or was she just called the Great Mother or something like that?
I think it's looking this up. I think it's Talzin was the one who.
Yeah. So it kind of gave me those vibes. I know it wasn't the same character, but that one character was so powerful, right? So to see 3 of them, I was like, ooh. And obviously there was like the main one. They're very reminiscent of the oracles, of Greek mythology. That troop of the 3 witches, So we're just, we just now got into October. So for me, it was kind of like a nice little jump start, having witches, zombie night troopers, different characters with like monster faces. For me, it was exciting, very unexpected. And I could see how some people might be like, this doesn't feel like Star Wars, but it was. He did it in such a way, Filoni did it in such a way where if you didn't watch Clone Wars and you didn't watch Rebels, I mean, sorry, this is literally play the video game, Fallen Order. This is lore. This is fundamentally part of Star Wars now. Sorry you didn't know about that. You didn't do it, but go back. You got time now. The show's over. Do your research. It didn't come out of nowhere. It is part of this universe. So I thought they were great. They looked really cool. And I was kind of like, I was wondering when Morgan turned, I was like, oh, is she going to wrap herself up too? What is she going to look like when she's all wrapped up? Because the Great Mothers were all like kind of in like little robes. But I thought they were cool, very menacing and very threatening. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I love them. I think, I like that we didn't get a lot about them because there's more to do with them next season, but they really have that kind of spooky horror vibe in Ahsoka. But one thing I found very interesting is that they're powerful. They're really powerful. Yet they take orders from Grand Admiral Thrawn, who is physically nothing. Physically, it's kind of like A New Hope in a way, when Darth Vader was choking that one guy on the Death Star, and Grand Moff Tarkin was, Vader, release him. And Vader's like, as you wish, and just releases him. Even though physically Darth Vader could have been, you don't tell me what to do. Garr. But the point of that, it shows that the one thing about the bad guys is they're smart. They recognize a good leader. So even though, like, someone can be physically more powerful, but that doesn't necessarily make them a good leader. The grandmothers respect Thrawn enough to know that, hey, he's smarter than us. He has plans. So we need him. And even though, I mean, let's be honest, if they wanted to, they could all get together and turn him and Thrawn into a fraud for all they care. But no, they respect the chain of command, and that's what I like about them, is that they're smart in that regard, is that they know their place. They know that, hey, this is what we need. We need him, and again, I love the mysterious vibe that we have from them. We don't really know a lot about them, and they're just like, you wonder, how did they get there? I mean, we know how Ezra, Thrawn, and all the night troopers got there, but we have no idea how the Great Mothers got there.
So from what I was interpreting, I don't know if this is true, but that galaxy is where they originated from.
Yeah, that's right. That's what
So
I think they said. I thought they said it was rumored, though. I didn't know if they said that was like confirmed. I thought like Morgan was like, I heard, or legend says. I don't remember if they said that for a confirmed fact, though. But because someone correct me in the chat if I'm wrong.
They used they were according to Morgan, they were the first ones to harness the Purgle to get to our galaxy. Therefore, like, the Night Sisters are rarity in our galaxy. That's just how I took it. So the Night Sisters were always there. And then I guess at some point met Thrawn. So what's interesting to me is we know in our galaxy, because of Clone Wars, the Emperor was using Talzin, or whatever the mother was in Clone Wars, that resurrected Darth Maul and his brother. What's his brother's name again? I forget it all the time.
The guy that Clancy Brown played. Yeah.
I always forget. Savage.
Let's see.
Savage, right?
Yes, Savage.
Savage.
Yes, Savage Opress.
So for Savage Opress. So Darth Maul and his brother were manipulated by the mother, and then the Emperor turned on the mother, right? And so they had this epic battle in Clone Wars. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. The Emperor fought the mother, the Night Sister witch, and it was amazing.
It was Grievous. It was Grievous who fought them, because what happened is that in Clone Wars, Dooku had an apprentice, Asajj Ventress, who was, which, by the way, I gotta say, real shout out, that in the clone in the Hayden Christensen Anakin recording, they mention Asajj Ventress. I know General Grievous and Count Dooku were part of the movies, but Asajj Ventress from Clone Wars, so that was cool. Can't believe I forgot to say that. But anyways, back to what I was saying is that
I thought the Emperor fought the Night Sister.
well, he fought Darth Maul and Savage Opress. What happened in Clone Wars is that Dooku betrayed Asajj Ventress because Sidious was worried that Count Dooku was using Asajj to have his own apprentice to take over him. So Sidious is like, "You gotta kill her," and then she goes, and then she survives, and she goes to the Night Sister, to the grandmother, who essentially uses a voodoo doll to try to kill Dooku, and then that's when Dooku sends Grievous to Dathomir to kill the Night Sisters and reverse the charges, so reverse the spell. So it was Grievous who killed them.
It's been a long time since I watched Clone Wars, but what I was trying to say is that I wonder if the Night Sisters that we see with Thrawn are aware of what happened in our galaxy somehow, are connected, so that maybe I got the sense kind of what you were saying is that they're kind of playing the game. They need Thrawn, or they're going to help Thrawn, right? They're, oh, yes, Thrawn. They're just kind of cowing to him. But in reality, just like what happened in Clone Wars, the witches are like, oh, we have our own plans. So I think it's interesting that I saw like on the official Disney social medias or Star Wars that they got their own poster too, those characters. So I do agree with you. They're going to have a big point to play in future story. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens. I think there's so much great stuff that's going to happen with these characters. Now I kind of want to go to Baylan, just overall his character and whether or not should he be recast, because he's survived. He is alive, and clearly they were setting stuff up for him. So I guess overall, what do you think about Baylan in these last 3 episodes? And do you think they should recast him, or if they should find a way to just kill off the character?
It sucks because that would be my only criticism. Kind of like you, I was like hoping. I was like, I hope although I love him, just like we both agreed, like his intro was amazing. I think the last time we see him was fighting Ahsoka, right? And then the ship, Hugh Yang uses the ship to shoot at him, and then so Ahsoka is able to get away. So it feels like there's unresolved conflict that needs to happen with Ahsoka and Baylan, right? And then in the finale, we see him. Obviously, I got the sense, I don't know if you did, I got the sense somehow he's going to become like a night brother or something like that, or harness the witch's power somehow now that they're kind of gone. I feel like he's going to try to use sorcery in some way and merge his Jedi techniques with the sorcery. And that sucks because it definitely seems like he is poised to be a major threat and maybe become the threat in the series. But unfortunately, the actor did pass. I did read when I was looking up the cause of death that he was filming a movie, Casino, in Ashanti. And so because he died during it, Dominic Purcell, who played Heatwave in the Flash Arrowverse, is replacing him. So I'm curious if, like, I'm sure Dominic Purcell won't also, make the leap to Star Wars, but I wonder if Disney might take a cue from that production to have another actor fill it. But
it's different though, because it was during filming, right? So they probably replaced all of Ray Stevenson's scenes with Dominic Purcell.
Probably.
So like, it's not like people saw this movie with Ray Stevenson and Dominic Purcell, whereas here we saw a whole season with Ray Stevenson. And I think this particular role, Ray Stevenson just delivered a special something that I just don't think another actor can emulate. Like, here's the thing with recasting is that, yes, story-wise, I understand why they would want to recast him. But the trick is you got to find an actor who can really emulate what you're looking for. Like, for example, Rise of Skywalker. If you had someone else replace Carrie Fisher, I don't think you would have had that emotional impact that would have been needed for Carrie Fisher. So that's why I feel that I don't I go back and forth on this, honestly. I really do, because they were setting so much up with this character. And on one hand, I think most actors respect that the show must go on. I do think that, because, Josh, it's so funny. I got flashbacks watching this series to when I first watched The Dark Knight in theaters. Because when I first watched The Dark Knight in theaters, I may have said this last review, I don't remember, but the first time I watched The Dark Knight in theaters, I was like, oh, please kill off the Joker. Please kill off the Joker since Heath Ledger's dead. So that, and again, yes, it's tragic that a person lost their life. That's always the most tragic. But at the end of the day, I didn't know Ray Stevenson. I didn't really know of him before this series, to be honest. Honestly, I didn't really know of him until he died. So, like, I'm not going to act like I'm going to be sad that a person died, but I'm going to be honest. I am thinking about how it's going to affect the series. And same with Heath Ledger. It was like, I hope that the character dies so that their death doesn't actually make a difference for the story. But obviously, again, it was the same thing when Joker was falling to his death, and I was like, "Oh, good, he's gonna die," and then Batman saves him. I'm like, "God damn it, Batman!" It's like the same thing here. Ahsoka's fighting Baylan, and Baylan's getting shot, and it's like, "Oh, they're gonna kill off Baylan," and it's like, "God damn it, he survived."
Yeah.
So
I agree. That, like I said, that's one of the criticisms I have with the finale is that Baylan Skoll character is so good, played by Dan Stevenson, that
Ray,
I'm sorry, Ray Stevenson. Sorry about that. That it's going to be really hard to see somebody else take over that role. I think the story is going to call for that for sure, because, like I said, it just seems to me like I got the sense that Baylan will be using witchcraft somehow. Ray Stevens is an awesome actor. His presence screen. Yeah, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to recast him, Grogu. We'll see. They got time.
And they can figure it out. And again, for all they know, maybe Dave Filoni, when Ray Stevenson died, he was seeing if there's a way to do the story without Baylan's character. And I mean, here's one benefit of his death is that it could really boost Shin's character up too. So there
Yes.
is a way it could, like, like, look, it's never going to be perfect. It's going to be obvious that stuff is going to not completely flow if they do this. But actually, kind of a bit of a fun fact about the Dark Knight. Apparently, remember the guy that Joker kills, Gambit, with the knife?
Gamble.
Yeah. Apparently, he didn't actually die. Is that he had a disfigurement, and there was a whole story where he's after the Joker, and he and like they were setting up a sequel. So that's why Nolan completely cut that segment, and he edited that scene to make Gamble died. And the actor who played him didn't even find that out till he saw the film premiere, that all that stuff was cut. So, I mean, point is, could they have done that in Ahsoka, take out certain scenes to take out that foreshadowing? Maybe, but
So
I don't know.
I literally I don't know if this is true. It's Wikipedia, but I cross-referenced. So the day that Ray Stevenson died was literally the premiere date of Ahsoka, and they added that tribute at the end. I don't know if you remember. So
Oh
they
no,
must.
he died way before that episode. Because when I was watching, he didn't die that day.
Oh,
He
you're
died
right.
in
You're right.
May.
You're right. It says, okay, the way it's worded made it seem like it was the same day. Okay. So, like I said, so then they do have time. So they do have time, and they've probably, in developing season 2 or whatever, movie or whatever, I would imagine Dave Filoni will, like you said, probably lean on Shin Hati a little bit more, which for me, because like I said, I liked her when she was set up, but I didn't have the biggest connection. I hope that she's able to be catapulted into somebody that I kind of connect with a lot more.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I think there would be a benefit to killing off Baylan's character. Is that I think yes, the story comes first, but if there's a way you can do the story without the character, and there's a benefit you can do for the story, and I think this would be one benefit to the story is that I think it would really boost Shin's character up. So I'm kind of leaning towards not recasting him, honestly, only for that reason. I mean, because like the thing is, Baylan, Ray Stevenson delivered that special something that I just don't think another actor can emulate. And again, this is not the solution for every single role out there. I want to make this clear. I'm not saying this is how they should do it all the time. I'm saying in this particular instance, because I just don't think another actor can emulate the role the way that Ray Stevenson did.
Yeah, I agree. Rest in peace, Ray. You did amazing. You are an amazing former Jedi or whatever you are. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. And now I kind of want, like, before we move on from this topic, though, now we kind of got the recast conversation out of the way. What'd you think of Baylan for these three episodes? Like, what'd you think of this guy? Or really two, because you.
I wanted more in the finale, because like I said, like I kind of like you wanted him to have his arc finished, so I hoped he would have like a showdown with Ahsoka or something. Because the last time, like I said, you see him was he tells Ahsoka, "You can't beat me," and she's like, "Maybe not," or something like that. Yeah, she says, "Maybe not, but I don't need to," or she says something like that, and that's when Hu Yang comes and she blasts him from the sky, and therefore Ahsoka rolls away and gets on the path that she needs to be on. But it felt like they had to have another showdown. So we'll see what Disney decides to do. Ultimately, it's their decision. But I liked him. He's like, I've liked him ever since the premiere in that hallway with, Darth Vader-esque. He's just like with that music, dun, 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 that piano. He was amazing. He was just a presence, like Grogu said, that really struck you as a viewer, in my opinion. And just a cool aesthetic, just a really reminiscent of like that Count Dooku-esque ancient, like Obi-Wan-esque type Jedi that is very George Lucas-y.
Yeah. I agree with you. He said he demonstrated all that, but there was something he did with him in episode 6 I didn't like, and I kind of said this with Shin Hati earlier. I don't like that he went back on his word against Sabine, because I felt like Baylan, one thing that made him cool was that he was an evil villain who had honor, but it felt like here he's like, a lot of what made him cool they kind of took away in this episode. And to me, first of all, there was really no reason for them to go after Sabine. I mean, considering the fact that they're going to just leave them stranded there. They could have just left them stranded there and said, but I don't know. I like that Baylan, though, was one of the only people to make Thrawn hesitate, to make Thrawn question. Like, Thrawn is no one to be trifled with. Like, Thrawn is not one to get surprised. Like, you saw like the genuine confusion on Thrawn's face when Baylan deviated from the plan. So I thought that was kind of cool that Baylan. I mean, again, I don't like many people doing that to Thrawn. Like, Thrawn is no. Like, people do not surprise Thrawn like that. But there's few people who can, and I think Baylan is one of them. So I did like that, and I did like his fight scene with Ahsoka, and the way he kind of is acting as a mentor towards Shin Hati, being like, "It's time, I've taught you everything that you need to know." Now, I mean, again, I don't think Baylan's writing Shin off. I think Baylan believes in Shin that she can do this on her own, and that's what I like about Baylan's character is that I think he trusts his Padawan in a way. He's kind of like Anakin in a way that Anakin trusts Ahsoka, and Baylan trusts Shin.
Yeah.
So Baylan was definitely a character in these last two episodes, because he really just had a cameo in episode 8, where in the finale where he just stands there.
Yeah.
But I really did like Baylan's character, and again, I will be honest, we'll get into the finale topic pretty soon, actually. But it sucks that we didn't see a lot of Baylan. But again, unfortunately, when Dave Filoni was writing the series and filming the series, he can't. Writers and actors and directors can't predict the future, and this is just an outside circumstance that it sucks, but that's just kind of what it was. I was hoping to see more Baylan in episode 8, but unfortunately, episode 7 was a send-off. But I'm sure one way or another they'll find a way to do this. The show will go on one way or another. I think no recast, because I think there's an actual alternative that could be really cool for the story. That's why I'm leaning on no recast, because It's already hard enough to do without the actor, but now I think I thought of a way that just works. So I guess any final thoughts on Baylan's character, about just his character in general, or the recasting topic?
I just because I agreed with you at first, but because he's such a great actor that I don't want to see him recast. But I also am somebody who really wants to see this story and see what that character, because the character is connected to Shin Hati. So what his goal was, and ultimately to see that through, I don't know how, but I imagine it would need a recast character. So I'm kind of like either way, whatever they decide to do. But either way, Ray Stevenson will be missed, and rest in peace to the amazing actor who played an amazing Jedi, and I mean a former Jedi turned to whatever he is now, labels himself, who's going to be memorable for me personally. So rest in peace, Ray.
Yep, well said. Rest in peace. And now let's get into the moment that everyone in this series was waiting for. Grand Admiral Thrawn returns. Like, this guy is probably one of the best, like the best Star Wars villain, probably outside of Vader and the Emperor. And I maybe even put him above them even. I go back and forth on that. I don't get too blasphemous on here, but Thrawn is like the best, which again, for people who don't know, this is a character who was made non-canon by Disney that Disney brought back into canon with Rebels. And I hadn't read the extended lore of the EU with Thrawn, but seeing him in Rebels, I saw why they brought this character back. Just, I guess, Josh, overall, like in Rebels, what do you think about Thrawn in Rebels?
So this character obviously comes from the Heir to the Empire novels. And from my understanding, so I had heard about him through, I actually I have a coworker who is very much into the novels, and so he was a geek like me, and so he read all of them, and he would kind of tell me what his opinion was of that character. I am somebody who comes from like a psychology field and a psychology background, so I just like Scarecrow, like I admire the mind's power over the body, like I respect that a lot more than, somebody who's just training their body but doesn't have no brains. So for me, seeing this character in Rebels for the first time, I was like, oh, interesting. I have heard from some people who read the novels that it's not quite what they imagine. I guess they have issues, but I think that's for most people, right? Like you read a book, it's different when you see the live action adaptation. Happened with Harry Potter, happened with Lord of the Rings, happened with Hunger Games, whatever, on and on. That's just a criticism. The movie is never as good as the book. For me, just knowing that the actor's name is Lars Mikkelsen, I believe, who voiced him in Rebels, and if you watch clips, it's the same guy. Like it's the same voice, same guy. There are some memes I've seen where he's gotten a little thicker around the middle. Thrawn likes his snacks. Probably likes his, he likes his blue milk and his green milk or whatever they have in that galaxy.
To be fair, he was really skinny though in Rebels. Like he was really, like he had a really flat head in Rebels. So him looking like even a normal looking face is going to look fat.
Yeah. And for me, just seeing his entrance was really cool. How it's just that music with the night troopers, and it's, like, oh crap, this is what we've been hearing since Mandalorian season 2. Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn, the heir to the Empire. And ultimately, like as somebody who always keeps the big perspective, I kind of knew, I always look at the big picture. I kind of knew Thrawn is not somebody, I don't think, who will be resolved in a show. I think he deserves his own movie. Therefore, yeah. I respect Disney for hearing the fans, bringing the character not only into Rebels, but continuing and now into live action. And seeing each interaction throughout the episodes 6, 7, and 8, where Thrawn, he's just smart. like oftentimes when we watch a lot of genre, we watch like comic book stuff, right? And the villain always just like oversees something or just gets too pompous and their hubris gets them caught or taken out, right? Thrawn is like, oh no, when those space whales come, make sure to kill it. Oh, they're down, two ships are down. Okay, well they're going to be on foot, so we need to prepare a ground assault. Like, he's just so strategic and he thinks so far ahead that I respect him, and he's such a threat. But he's also, like, for me, he's not like, he's menacing, yes, because he's like, okay, I'm going to use Baylan and Shin, but oh well, if they get left here, well, we've been here for like way too long. They just got here, so the way his mind works, I kind of like, I see it. I'm just like, oh my god, I could see why people would fall in line under this guy, this strategicness. And from what I understand, I don't know what's canon now, but Darth Vader kind of and the EU respected Thrawn in a sense. And vice versa. They both kind of respected each other. And so it was interesting to me when he's like, oh, Ahsoka's master is Anakin Skywalker. Like, he's just kind of like, I'm not dealing with any old person. Like, he basically was like, I have to be on it, or else I'm going to get taken out by somebody who I respected trained this person. So I have to think like somebody I respected. So I just thought it was really well realized from what I know of the character. I haven't read Heir to the Empire. I think I read like an abbreviated version of like the original scripts that Lucas had written for this, like years ago. There was like the original scripts of the Heir to the Empire. So I kind of got a little like, I don't know if these were official. I don't know. They were like leaked years ago when I was in high school. So everything that I know of Thrawn was like pretty perfect. What about you? What do you think?
So my difference is that my knowledge of Thrawn strictly comes from Rebels. I mean, I know about that he was from the books. I knew that, but everything I've seen of Thrawn was from Rebels. And the one thing that made Thrawn menacing was his cold calculations. The way, like in Rebels, he turned every loss into a victory somehow. Is that Thrawn? He was thinking long term. He was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. If he lost a battle to Thrawn, it was more of how, like, what he learned from that, so that they can fight them next time for when it really matters. Because Thrawn will take minor losses for the big picture, and that's what makes Thrawn such a menacing opponent. The only time that Thrawn's plan failed was when Bendu, the giant force god thingy, got involved, when the space whales took him away, and actually one of his own people screwed up his plans in Rebels when Governor Price destroyed the fuel supply for the TIE defenders, where again Thrawn had a superior plan to the Death Star. That is how menacing Thrawn is. So, and one thing that made Thrawn menacing was his voice, was Lars Mikkelsen's voice. And I know you can't get every actor from the animated series, fine. But Thrawn, no. You cannot recast Grand Admiral Thrawn. Like, I will take an Elon Musk looking Thrawn with the voice over another actor any day of the week. And honestly, I know that one picture from the trailer made him look like Elon Musk, but I don't know. When I see him in the series, not so much. He just looks like a guy, looks like Thrawn, and the look didn't bother me too much because look at Dooku in Clone Wars. Okay, let's not act like the animated series did a great job of making them look like the live action counterparts when the live action is what came first. So I'm not going to give them shit for Thrawn's head being shaped slightly different.
Yeah.
But everything you said, Josh, about Thrawn's calculations, like Lars Mikkelsen demonstrates that so perfectly in the series. Is that, as you said, when the whales come, he knows let's kill the whales. Let's not take any chances. But he also knew when to pull back his resources. Like when he found out that Ahsoka was Anakin's apprentice. I mean, and keep in mind, Thrawn is one of the few people who knows that Anakin is Darth Vader. He knew that. This is canon. This I know is canon, is that Thrawn figured out that Anakin was Darth Vader. And of course, Thrawn, being Thrawn, would know that. So he knows what anyone trained by Anakin Skywalker is capable of. So when he told his fighters to pull back, he knew that it was more strategic to just let Ahsoka pass. And that's why Thrawn is such a worthy adversary in the series. And yes, of course he was gonna. I would have hated it if they brought him back just to kill him off. That'd be lame. And Mikey Sutton says, heir to the Empire is what they're setting up, and Thrawn's gonna be the big bad in that. So again, another scoop by Mikey Sutton. Rest in peace, Mikey.
Yes.
Is that we're gonna get more Thrawn. So I mean, they did everything they did exactly what they needed to with Thrawn. They needed to show him, remind us why he's such a badass, remind him why he's cunning, and again, he thinks the big picture. See, Thrawn, even though he's just strategic. Like, even though it may be a bit of an ego for him to think for the Empire, for me to get home because the Empire needs me, he just knows the Empire needs him. That's just the reality. Thrawn knows that. And it's not ego, it's just being practical and effective. And it's why the grandmothers respect him. Or the great mothers. I still think even if they try to portray Thrawn's going to have some backup plan because it's Thrawn. I don't see him being duped by the great mothers. I would hate that if that happened. But everything we saw, we needed. And Lars Mikkelsen, I have no idea how you pronounce that. He does such a great job. Like, it was the animated series in live action. It was that Thrawn, and I loved it. And the only thing I do kind of got annoyed with is we didn't see a scene of Thrawn and Ahsoka meeting face to face. Like, Thrawn even says, "I wish I could see you face to face." I'm like, yeah, I do too. You could have done that somehow. But
I realized, I was like, oh yeah, they never did meet in Rebels.
yeah, no, because Ahsoka was only in season 2, and she was in one episode of season 4, not counting her cameo in the finale.
Right.
And in there, she was just in the Veil of the Force. That's the only time you see her. So there was no point where Thrawn would have met her.
Mm-hmm.
The Emperor technically Palpatine met Ahsoka also in Clone Wars, but as the Emperor, he actually met Ahsoka in Rebels, played by Ian McDiarmid. He's like Ezra Bridger and Ahsoka Tano.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Thrawn, nope. So I would have liked to see that in maybe season 2, maybe Heir to the Empire. I'm sure they'll have them meet at some point because I do want to see that. But I think they set up exactly what they needed to with Thrawn, and I think there's so much great stuff coming up, and I'm excited to see when we're going to see Thrawn next time. But overall, yeah, I really love Thrawn's return. I think they did everything great. I just shows how he adapted to surviving being on this other galaxy. There's just so much you could do with Thrawn. And now let's get into the main character. It's so funny. We're reviewing Ahsoka, and we're 1 hour, 49 seconds, and 49 minutes and 40 seconds. I guess there is an intro, to be fair, but into this review without actually going in depth about Ahsoka. So, what'd you think about Ahsoka these last? Actually, just to clarify, let me put a bit of a distinction on here because the series is called Ahsoka. So I'm just gonna say
Snips.
Ahsoka the character, just to make sure that's abundantly clear. So, what'd you think about Ahsoka in these last 3 episodes?
Loved her. I mean, I love the character. She's amazing. I do have a gripe, which at first I didn't really mind, but I've heard it just echoed more and more each time. And I kind of agree with it. Ahsoka's fighting style is way too slow compared to what she's capable of and who she is. And at first I was like, no, it makes sense because she's she's more strategic and she's, masterful. But near the finale, it happened so much where I was like, yeah, when she was fighting Morgan Elsbeth, I was just like, Morgan was the visceral, like really, just fury fighter. But I kind of rationalized in my mind that Ahsoka, now that she's accepting her role as Jedi Master, and training a Padawan, that she has to be more strategic, right? It's more difficult having 2 lightsabers as fighting than 1, because 1 you can kind of use other things, little you have more power. But for her, she has to be more strategic with her strokes, and therefore you see it was amazing how to see that little move where she like takes her lightsaber and Morgan's sword and like slashes them together. Like it was way cool, something that I hadn't seen in Star Wars recently. So yeah, her as a character, that levity that happens after season 5, after she sees Anakin, has that little, face to face with her fears, has the flashback to the Clone Wars. Like this evolution just made sense to me. You got to see her in 6 just start having that really just uplifting, like when Hu Yang and her are in the new galaxy, he's like, you're who's to say we're in the right galaxy? And then she's like, oh, well, you should have told me that before we left. He's like, I did. I told you. And she's just kind of smiling and giving him a hard time. And he's just like, ugh. He's like, I love their interaction. And it shows that Ahsoka can now, kind of similar to how I feel about Sabine, when she has that confidence, she's able to be herself again. And I think Rosario Dawson did a great job kind of showing that torment at the beginning of the series and in Mandalorian, like when we first see her in live action, she's kind of weary, right? She's Ahsoka the Grey. I am no Jedi. But now, without her saying it, she really has taken up her master's footsteps and is the Jedi Master, one of the greatest Jedi in the galaxy. So hats off to Rosario Dawson, or whatever these are. Hats off to you. Because you really did bring like one of the best characters to life, in my opinion, and really knocked it out of the park. I definitely want to see, like, there's obviously going to be a focus on what's happening in this new galaxy more so. So I'm excited because Ahsoka has a lot more story to tell. But I think there's also some other characters that Ahsoka might be meeting up with again. So I can't wait because I love seeing Ahsoka interact with these characters again. So we're just getting a taste of Ezra, right? We're getting a taste of tease with Thrawn. And who's to say, who else you might run into. So loved her. What about you?
I loved Ahsoka in this series. I love that we really got to see the wise Ahsoka from the one that Ghost Anakin trained, that the real Ghost Anakin trained, not some fake Anakin. I don't know why that theory exists, other than people trying to hate the series. But anyway, I don't want to rant about that too much yet. But Ahsoka is just I love Ahsoka's character. From Clone Wars, she starts off as this annoying brat to this wise Jedi, and just here we just saw exactly what Ahsoka is. It's just she's always been the smartest Jedi, the wisest of the Jedi, in my opinion, because she's the one who knows the issues of the Order and knows that things can be done better. And just here, she has this very calm aura around her. Is that she really displays her wise Jedi role, is that she just trusts the Force to know what she's doing. Is that she forgives Sabine. She forgives Sabine instantly for what she did, for dooming the world. Ahsoka just adapts to the situation they're in. Like, yes, it wasn't ideal that Sabine and Ahsoka are trapped now in this galaxy while Thrawn and Ezra got away, but she learns to adapt to whatever the situation is. Is that when the ship goes down, she's like, everyone else wants to get up and give up, and Ahsoka's like, oh no, this will only slow down if we let it. This will only slow us down if we let us slow it down. Man, I cannot talk today. But it shows why Ahsoka is a badass and why she deserves her own show, and this was her show. I know that there's a lot of supporting characters, but this was Ahsoka's show.
Oh,
and it really and yes, I know episode 6 doesn't completely demonstrate that, but episode 7 and 8 definitely do. And although I have to question Ahsoka's logic in some ways, though, because I'm just saying, if the Purga whales got them there once, why can't you just go back up to space, make a connection with the Purga whales, and be like, hey, take us back to our galaxy now? I'm just saying she could do that.
yeah.
They're not really stranded there. There is a way for them to get back. but I digress. Ahsoka, Rosario Dawson was a great Ahsoka. Yes, I do get the issues with the fight choreography, and I think especially you're never going to see something as good in live action as you are animated, just because it's easier to draw than have an actor do it. But overall, I think Ahsoka is a great character, and she was a great character in the series and in these 3 episodes. Just seeing the final stage of her character development, being the wise guiding mentor figure, finally being the master that Sabine always needed. Like, this was the master that Sabine needed, and we finally saw that. So yes, I love Ahsoka. She's a great character. And now let's get into this question. This is a big thing that people are saying. Was the finale a letdown? And I think what happened, in my opinion, I felt that way at first because I wanted to see more of Baylan. I wanted to see more Baylan, I wanted to see more Shin, and I wanted to see those storylines wrapped up. But again, Dave Filoni clearly has more that he's doing. And I think this is what kind of upset people, is that I think people wanted everything to kind of be wrapped up in a nice little bow, and it wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't. There's more that's happening with this series. And at first, I went back and forth on this. Like, you may see some old posts from me yesterday on Twitter X saying, yeah, the finale was a letdown. But after discussing it with you, I think there were some stupid scenes. Like, I think Sabine being able to push Ezra, being that powerful enough to push Ezra, was stupid. Not this Mary Poppins bullshit that people are trying to spell. That's stupid as shit. I know I rant about this a lot, but I'm ranting about this. That's a stupid complaint because there was nothing Mary Poppins about that scene. If you want a Mary Poppins scene, go to like episode 8, as in episode 8 of the Skywalker saga, Last Jedi. Carrie Fisher, Leia. That's a Mary Poppins scene. Yeah. But what happened there wasn't. No. And I think people are always a lot harder on the finales because the finales is like where everything is supposed to be like the best episode ever. So I think when the finale isn't as good as other episodes, people hate it. Like, no, this finale was not as good as episodes 4 and 5. I think episodes 4 and 5 were the best episodes of the entire saga. But I loved, I think about it more. I like the finale. We got what we needed from the finale. I mean, again, seeing the Great Mothers use magic to bring the troopers back to life was exactly what they would do. I love that scene. And again, the way that Ahsoka adapts to the situation, the way that, again, you see Thrawn acting in action, back in action, and that final scene between Ezra meeting Hera, seeing Hera again. That was such a great scene. And yes, it's nice that Ezra's home. I found it funny. Ezra's like, I'm home. And all it took was leaving 2 of our friends behind. Yeah. I'm just saying, they gained 1 friend and lost 2. So I don't know if that really is quite the celebration. But overall, I think the finale got overhated. I think people wanted something different. But again, Dave Filoni's clearly setting up more. And yes, he didn't know that Ray Stevenson was going to die. So, of course, yes, it sucked that because I was thinking, I want to see more Ray Stevenson. Where's Ray Stevenson? Show him already. But again, the plan was to see him in more. That plan had to change, whether they recast him, whether they write him off. But the important thing is Filoni set up, the finale did what it needed to do. It left us on a cliffhanger. It wrapped up this story arc, but set up new ones. So that's kind of my thought on that. What's your thought on that?
So it's interesting that I didn't know about this hate or whatever, but it's also kind of, I think I mentioned to you before we started, like it makes sense to me because I guess people very short-sighted. You're like, me and you, like, we pay attention to all these news drops, right? We pay attention to stuff. So for me, as a perspective, I always keep the big picture in. When we talked about episode 5 with Anakin, there was only 3 more episodes. So you got to think about introducing Thrawn, introducing Ezra, wrapping up the heir to the Empire story. I'm sorry, but as somebody who is a geek and knows all this stuff, you're not going to get all of this in 3 episodes of television. You're going to get the introduction, the wrap up, the conclusion. So for me, someone who knows all of it, right, or most of it, I knew not to expect the storyline to be done. We already knew that, I guess some people were thrown for a loop, that season 3 of The Mandalorian was kind of really felt like, okay, that's it, right? Like their story's done. They're retired, they're gone, they're living their life, right? But we know that's not the last of those characters because money, because they're both beloved, right? And then we hear about Ahsoka, right? And then we hear about a Filoni movie. So, and they're all going to tie together, y'all. So you really thought that Ahsoka was just going to be the end of the heir to the Empire that has literally been dangled in front of your face, said multiple times, emphasized multiple times. Look, y'all, Disney said they're ripping off their own franchise, Marvel. They're doing their shared universe now. We have the Mandalorians, right? We have Jedi back. We have a master who's trained these Jedis, and we have a Padawan who is also a Mandalorian. So guess who I want to see Sabine interact with? 2 Mandalorians. So this is going to be like a Infinity War, Endgame, Avengers type culmination, y'all. So if you don't want to see that, okay, go. Stop watching. But we're going to get more. So I'm sorry you felt disappointed. I can see that. But you probably didn't watch Rebels. Probably didn't watch Clone Wars. I mentioned to you, I have a really good friend. He's probably not watching this live, but even if he is, hello. But he kind of was like laying it on hard to me today. He was like, this was such a letdown. Should have been called Rebels, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, did you watch Rebels and Clone Wars? And it was kind of like, kind of, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and he was like mad that it didn't wrap up. And I was like, you know about the movie, right? That's what the movie's for, to wrap it up. And he's like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. And so he just, people just got to keep these in mind and look at the big picture. You're not, something as iconic as the heir to the Empire storyline is not going to be resolved in a distant galaxy away from our galaxy in another universe. Sorry, you're going to go big or go home. And Filoni goes big. So I didn't mind it. I'm sorry people didn't. But hey, even if you didn't like this and you're done with Star Wars, guess what? Zack Snyder has his own Star Wars coming later this year. So you got alternatives.
Wait for that.
Yeah.
So this actually brings up to a good question. Why the Ahsoka hate? Like, why are so many people, and I guess I know you haven't seen this so much on Twitter X, but I've seen it. I've even tried to avoid it, but people are retweeting this shit now. And like, why are people hating on this series so much? Like, so many people are just hating on Ahsoka, hating on Dave Filoni. And well, here's one thing I'm going to say right now. First off, I think the problem in our society, and you can like let me know what you think about this, is that the problem right now is that if something's not a masterpiece, it's considered utter garbage. Like that's like where we're at this point. It's like if it's not Zack Snyder's Justice League, or we'll say Empire Strikes Back, since we're in Star Wars, if it's not Empire Strikes Back quality, it's a bad series. And it's like, yes, there were some flaws in the Ahsoka series. I'm not denying that. I never said it was perfect. I'm just saying that what I liked about it outweighs what I didn't like about it. I guess, what's your opinion on that one, Josh?
Same. Like, it's not I'll be honest, it's not a perfect series at all. And there's some stuff that was kind of like sloppy. And, I have to preface, and just for myself, the way I've had to enjoy Star Wars now, seeing how Disney has handled it, which was with utter and complete lack of plan, which is dumbfounding to me. They literally brought one of the most beloved, prestigious Hollywood IPs and did not put in the care and the time to lay out a plan to honor what has come and honor the fan base and honor these things. And that's why we have a divided fan base that we do have, in my opinion. And I'll be honest, like, I believe everything you're telling me about the Phantom Menace. I believe all the hate and I believe all that. But I think it's honestly more of a reflection on Disney as a company. They're trying to hate on Disney and what Disney stands for. And so I think it's just kind of like alternative. It's like they're saying Ahsoka because that's what's Disney's prolific release right now, right? So I don't know. But even if they don't, even if their criticisms are valid, like I said, there's alternatives to fantasy sci-fi. Okay, that's what Star Wars is. All right, y'all. It's literally fantasy. And it really felt like that to me, like Hu Yang telling the story to Ahsoka, which we saw Sabine, in another galaxy. And when we saw those little creatures with Ezra, they were like cute, and there was like a little baby. And it's just like, it's for kids. It's fantasy. This is like the old serial, like George Lucas used to watch the old serials, like the Flash Gordons. I don't know if y'all familiar with Flash Gordon, like the sci-fi, like those those old school type storytelling devices where you're fantastical and you're whimsical. That's what it is, y'all. And for me, the way I've had to enjoy Star Wars is, I agree, Disney has not treated it like here. So for me to enjoy it, I have had to put my expectations just down. That's for me thing that I have chosen to do, which is probably not right for me to do, but I don't want to keep being disappointed. So I'm just kind of like enjoying it for what it is and seeing it for what it is. I started to enjoy Star Wars with the prequels, which were more geared towards kids, right? Which I didn't really connect with when I saw episode 1. But then when I got to the maturity of Revenge of the Sith and the betrayal and the brotherhood and the turn of the dark side and the emotional torment of Anakin and all that, and the calculatedness of the Emperor and how he was like an insurgent and just a mole and overthrew the Republic from within, that was just, wow. Star Wars is so much more. But at the end of the day, it is a fantasy story. It's once upon a time. So we as people really just need to look. It's a fantasy. It's a classic Cinderella type story, more so geared towards boys, guys, right? But girls can enjoy it too. If you hate women characters, I guess just keep on hating, because we're going to get a lot more of it in season 2 or in the movie or whatever. But I don't know why they don't hate it. But like I said, there's alternatives. Rebel Moon comes out December 22nd, 2023. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, if you don't want to watch something, don't watch it. But so many of these fandom menace, it's like they talk about it and they actually watch every episode. I'm like, why? Like, just don't. It's weird to me, and like I try to avoid it as much as I can. I'm mute accounts. I wanted to clarify, I'm doing that, but other people will retweet accounts that I haven't thought of yet, so I'm still seeing it no matter what. And I left Qatar's comment on because of this. Is that I know what you're saying. I know what you're getting at, Qatar, but I don't necessarily think they hate Dave Filoni. I think they hate Disney, and because Dave Filoni works for Disney, they're projecting down Dave Filoni, saying nonsense like Dave Filoni's a hack. But I'm like, I'm sorry, but Dave Filoni has done stuff better than George Lucas did. And put it like this, I hate what Disney did with the sequels. I do. I'm not going to lie to you. But I'm not going to be dishonest and say that every single thing Disney has done is bad as a result. No. This is how you're not a shill. You praise what is good and hate what is bad. And think what's okay is okay. But blindly hating everything Disney makes you just as much of a shill as blindly loving everything Disney. Okay? So if you're just hating on a series just to hate on it, you're a shill. Because, I'm sorry, but George Lucas, as much as I think he is a godsend for creating Star Wars, not everything he did was perfect. But that's okay. Because I still think what George Lucas did, the good he did, outweighed the bad he did. Did he make some stupid decisions in the prequels? Yes. And the special editions? Yes. But he created a great story. And that's what matters. But the only reason I bring up the flaws is that they jump back to George Lucas so quickly. But he wasn't perfect either, because no one is. I mean, just again, if you don't want to watch it, just don't. But the negativity about it is just so weird, and like,
yeah, I mean, and
yeah,
I like Brogu, what Brogu's saying, like I agree. Like Disney has not treated it like they should, right? And I think honestly, as somebody that we both respect, me, Bat Dan, from what I understand, from what I'm sensing from that interview that Zack Snyder did with the Russos, there was a question asked about, Star Wars. And Zack loves Star Wars. Star Wars got Zack into filmmaking, right? But Zack said, infamously, like, he was like, oh, is it Star Wars now or is it Star Wars then? And I think that's in a way throwing shade a little bit about how Disney has treated the IP. But from what I understand, Zack Snyder's a fan. And at that time of that interview, right before, Obi-Wan had came out. And he was filming Rebel Moon and was watching Obi-Wan on his way to set, back and forth, from what I've heard. So the man, although he probably agrees with us that it's not the level it should be, he ultimately just watches it and tries to enjoy it for what it is. You might be disappointed by it, but it is what it is. You know, like if you just perpetually, I kind of get it. Like I kind of get the Phantom Menace, because I was, after a certain movie, I was just pissed. I was like, how could they treat this? Like, how could they do this without having a plan and just let this director do it? And then like this director, oh my God. And like I said, I had to just shut my mouth, sit my ass on the couch, I sit my butt on the couch, sorry, and binge all 7 seasons. I was only 6 at the time, I think, of Clone Wars to get the taste of that disappointment out of my mouth. But I ultimately found a Star Wars that I connected with, right? So there's not going to be connection of Star Wars for every single thing. We're oversaturated. Star Wars is no longer sacred, y'all. It's no longer like 3, you're right, like 3 movies and that's it, right? Now we have spin-offs and we have, you know, Jedi Academy and we have Star Wars Resistance and we have this and we have Tales of the Jedi, right? So Disney has kind of diluted it, yes. But guess what? They've also gained more fans that way. So it's just part of what it is now. Star Wars is still around. It's been around since 1977 and it's around today. If you don't like that it's around, Rebel Moon comes out in December. There's other sci-fi. I think you just saw The Creator, right? You just saw another sci-fi movie recently. So go enjoy something else, but don't harp on stuff you don't like. So that's what it is. Because Ahsoka will get you.
Well said, Josh. Well, very well said. And I think now that the whole season's over, now that we've finished the season, what's your opinion about the series as a whole at this point? Like anything that, like, now that we've seen it, anything from previous episodes, you're like, okay, well, now that didn't work for me because of this.
So the one thing that I was just having my little rant, let's be honest, like I think Dave Filoni has earned his spot, because to my knowledge, this is the only spin-off Disney Plus show to have a seemingly crawl opening. It's not the yellow text and it's not exactly the same, but Dave Filoni got a crawl. And I think that's pretty amazing. Like, it's in red, so it's not exactly a movie. It's differentiated, but I think it's setting up something epic, right? A crawl is a beginning of something else to come. You're getting in the middle. You're being thrown into the middle of the story. That's what happened with A New Hope at the time, Star Wars, 1977, what it was titled. We're just thrown in there. We see a Dark Lord, Darth Vader, seizing a ship and a princess trying to send a message transmission for help, right? We're just thrown in there. So we're going to have a lot of questions. We're going to have unresolved narratives, you know? At the end of Star Wars, Darth Vader didn't die. Luke, you know, there was more for him to do. He blew up the Death Star, but he didn't have a lightsaber yet. He didn't, you know, he didn't take up like his father. He didn't know all the questions that he had for Obi-Wan, right? There was more mystery. There was more intrigue. And the little, you know, rivalry with Leia and Han and stuff. So looking at this series and comparing it to the original trilogy, for me, it just kind of like the lightsaber fights, like the duels, the way it's treated, the mythology, but also expanding the mythology, incorporating the Night Sisters, incorporating this witchcraftian, incorporating the Purgle, which honestly, I always thought was silly too, calling them space whales, but they are amazing in live action. I got chills seeing them in that episode, I guess, 6, when you see them going through hyperspace from the outside, and then seeing Ahsoka and Hugh Yang, you know, coming out of hyperspace with them and the detonations, like, just so cool. So cool. The production design that they did with these characters was amazing. I loved the little creatures, the little crab creatures in the new galaxy. I would have liked to see more of the world and new different things, but I think it was enough with the Night Sisters and the witches and the Night Troopers and all that. So I was just, my expectations were kind of exceeded. I did set my expectations kind of low, like I did like I do for most Star Wars now that Disney owns it, and because of that, I'm like, wow, I got goose. Like, it's still for me Episode 5. Like I told you, like when seeing Anakin again, like I kid you not, Bad Dan, there was like the Force was like irradiating out of my heart. I felt power, like I felt uplifted in Episode 5. Throughout my entire body, I felt like energy was just kind of going. I was like, seeing Anakin again, seeing him become that master that we knew he was supposed to be, but we saw in Clone Wars, but seeing it in live action was just everything. And therefore, it wasn't his story, but he was integral in handing off his Jedi Master knighthood to Ahsoka Tano. And now she's got it. And now she's going to prepare with some other people for the war that is still unresolved. And it's going to be freaking crazy. So I'm along for the ride. Like I told you, with Star Wars now, I just try to enjoy it as much as I can. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy everything. I think I watched like the first Resistance episode and I was like, I might go back to it. But I don't watch every single thing, but I love Star Wars still. I have so many shirts. I have so much cosplay. I can't help it. So you might see more Ahsoka Tano. Since it's October now, so stay tuned.
Well said, Josh. Very well said. And I guess for me, at the end of the day, the series did what I wanted. We got to see some of my favorite anime characters translated so very well to live action, especially characters like Thrawn. We got perfect, like little Thal, seeing that perfect set from Rebels. And just seeing Ahsoka, one of my favorite Star Wars characters in live action, and seeing her with Hayden Christensen. Like Hayden Christensen, actually seeing Hayden Christensen as the Jedi Master. This series, at the end of the day, did everything I wanted it to do. I wish, I wish certain things were paid off better, like why Sabine's actually being trained. I think that was kind of one of the issues I had. But at the end of the day, the series did what it needed to do. It set up what comes next, but still told its own story. I know, look, I was disappointed that things didn't get resolved, but that's not what the series was supposed to do. It was supposed to end the story off on a cliffhanger, and I honestly, as a Star Wars fan, I couldn't be happier. It was overall, it was a great series. It was a great season, and we'll kind of get into the wrap up soon. Just one more topic before that is what comes next. I guess what's your kind of speculation for what we're going to see next? Do you think we'll get Ahsoka season 2? Do you think we're just going to get the cliffhangers paid off in a movie or another series?
Now, although I did like the series, I do, from what my little circle is, I've had to, like, I think I mentioned on your last stream that I tried to like get my cousin into it. She's kind of like hesitant about it, but she did reactivate her Disney Plus. So she's like, I'm going to watch it. She's not, I think she just wants to binge it and kind of like do it like that. And then like I have a friend who was like watching and invested, but was like super disappointed, and his thoughts are valid. And everyone who didn't like it, your thoughts are valid, right? But when you go for the hate and you just like, oh, it's woke and like she's a horrible character, I'm sorry, like she's not. Sorry, not reflecting all that hate back at you. But you got to remember, like, this is a universe now. This is a Star Wars universe. They're not just, when you had that crawl, you should have known this was the start of something. This is not just it, And I guess, let's be honest, Obi-Wan was the last thing that came, and that was pretty like
Andor.
Was it Andor?
Yeah, that was things. Yeah, okay. Andor came after
Obi-Wan.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. That was Andor. But and well, both of those, I guess, Devil's Advocate, those are both very much like, okay, that's it. Like, I guess Andor has another season, I think, maybe, possibly. Yes. I don't know. But
they have another season.
That's to my knowledge, they have not announced an Ahsoka season 2, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That is up in the air.
I will be honest, I think it's probably because from what I've heard, it hasn't really got the viewership probably they're wanting. And I do think the numbers and the press releases were 100% lies from Disney, and it's going to come back and bite them very quickly in like lawsuits and stuff, because now the settlement and part of this actors and writers strike is that they're going to have to reveal these numbers and stuff to these writers, to these actors, more than likely, and these people are going to basically reveal that these are lies that Disney is telling their stakeholders. So I have a feeling that Disney was waiting to see the reception to determine if it was going to be another season or all be resolved in the movie. I don't know, but it just seems like to me this hasn't gotten the viewership that they probably wanted. So we'll see. I would be okay with it just going into a movie, because the only thing I think was supposed to be tied in was Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and then maybe some of the Bad Batch plot points. I'm not sure. If Filoni was hinting at that, but like Omega and all that, I kind of feel like those were the 3 IPs that were going to be part of the Filoniverse movie. So we'll see. I'm at this point just kind of expecting the movie as the next thing, because now that the writers are resolved, but the actors are not, I think that's going to change a lot of the plans, whatever they were. So the writers are not going to like start right away. They're still got to like regroup and make sure their terms are, settled and all that. So I'm expecting a movie at this point, but I don't know. What about you? What do you think?
I think Filoni wanted to do a season 2 of Ahsoka. I definitely think that, but I think with viewership, he's going to have to adapt his plans. And to be honest, I'm fine with it. I feel like, here's the thing: as long as the cliffhangers get resolved one way or the other, like they're going to get resolved one way or the other. Whether it's a second season of Ahsoka, whether it just gets paid off in Heir to the Empire. But the thing is, Ahsoka's story, I feel. Well, I don't want to say it's completely wrapped up. Like, I think there's more to do with Ahsoka, but like the journey of her as a lead, I think the story for that is over. I think that what happened, she and Sabine, they have their thing, their story arc got resolved, because at the end of the day, it's about Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, Ahsoka's role, now that she kind of fulfilled her arc's complete, I think her role will be assisting Din Djarin, the Bad Batch, maybe Boba Fett in the fight against Grand Admiral Thrawn. That's going to be Ahsoka's role. Once Ahsoka remembers that she can just use the Purgle to get back to their home galaxy. So I don't think, again, as much as I would love to see a second season of Ahsoka, you're right. The viewership didn't help. And I think one thing that didn't probably help was that they based it off an anime, that you basically had to watch an animated series, 2 animated series, for it to make sense. We both did. That's why we both liked it. But
there's a lot
I
of
can see why.
There is a lot of episodes too.
Yeah.
So I get it, but we did the research, so sorry.
I mean, I'm a Star Wars fan, so that's why I didn't watch Clone Wars and Rebels for homework. I watched it because I'm a Star Wars fan and I wanted to see great stories. And like, here's the thing, guys. You should watch Clone Wars and Rebels not to understand Ahsoka, because they're great stories. They're really great stories.
They're aimed at the beginning for kids, right? Because Snips is Snips. She's a kid, right? And that's your focal point and entry point. But that's the whole great thing, is that you see, like with Smallville, even you start really innocent and then you mature with storylines and you get darker, you get darker as you go and more mature, and those concepts that you learn, that you start off with, get built upon, and therefore climax is more satisfying, like with anything in life. So you got to build it up.
Exactly. And I think, they're at the end of the day, they're building up the main arc, Heir to the Empire. That's what the series meant to do. I think it did what it needed to do. I think all these other characters will get help with, will get resolved with other stories. So yeah, I think that's what's next. We're just getting more other series that lead up to Heir to the Empire, and we'll all wrap up nicely. So yeah, overall, that's what I think will happen. I think if Ahsoka did better, I'm sure it would have gotten a second season, but because it was based off the animated series, I do think that also hurt the viewership. Plus, people are just kind of tired of Disney Star Wars. Because I'm not gonna lie, Obi-Wan was not the best series. I will admit that. But Ahsoka, nope, this one was great. I loved it. And I think it deserves, like the Flash movie, I think it deserved better than it got.
Yes.
But it is what it is. We're gonna have to see what happens. And just overall, so 2 ratings this time. One is your rating of episode 6 through 8, and then your rating of the whole series in general.
Okay. 6. So each episode rating?
Or 6 through 8. You can rate those 3 together, and then the whole series together.
Yeah, because if I gave 10 to 5, like that's gonna be my number 1. Like that's literally my outer body experience. 6, I told you, I didn't really have a ton to say. I would give it a 7. Just because it took a long time to kind of get. We got to spend more time with Sabine, but to get to Ezra, so I would have liked a little bit more, just more screen time for that. 7, I really enjoyed. I'll give that an 8. And then the finale, I enjoyed it, but I understand for people, it needs some more wrapping up to do. And for me, I can kind of agree. I'll give it an 8.5. And overall, the series, I would give it an 8.
Yep, that's fair. I say for me overall, I give the episode 6 of Ahsoka, I probably give it an 8.61982 out of 10. For episode 7, I kind of give that one a 9. I give that one a 9. We'll say a 9.491382. And the finale, I will give an 8. We'll say an 8.781923468892 out of 10. And overall, the series, I'm going to give it, I'm going to give it a 9.00000012348 out of 10. So overall, I really enjoyed the series. It had its faults, and let's see if anyone in the chat gave anything. And
hey, Sin
okay, Sin Havoc, nice. Thanks for stopping by. We're actually just wrapping up now, but catch the replay. I'll try to get these timestamped for you guys. But overall, I guess Josh, what do you have coming up?
So I'm back from my vacation. I've been hanging out with Beyonce, but now I've just been trying to catch up on everything. I'm sorry I've had to turn off my camera a little bit. I've been feeling under the weather. This is my allergy season. I don't
hey,
get
Necron.
Hey, Necron, what's up? 8. Necron gave it an 8. All right. So for me, I'm under the weather right now with allergies, but I have a big allergy season. So I just kind of trying to catch up on things here and there. It has kind of, I apologize. I'm the reason why it was late. So I'm just trying to hang in there. And what do I have coming up? I might be in a Beyonce movie coming up because I was at all the dates that we're filming. So look for me in Renaissance, a film by Beyonce coming out December 1st.
Damn. Not what I was expecting at all, but damn.
We'll see. No promises, but it was filmed at all the dates I went to. So.
I'll be on the lookout for that, and I'll probably just watch the Beyonce movie, just to see, just to look for Josh. And I guess for me, what's coming up is just for this channel, I'll do more Marvelous discussions with Socks. Is that we have Loki season 2, but we'll be reviewing every 2 episodes together, just because so much stuff has happened with Still Nation that things change with the schedule. So this Saturday we'll also be doing our Marvel's hype series as well. So we'll review Captain Marvel, then Loki's season 2 episodes 1 and 2, then WandaVision, Loki's episodes season 2, 3, and 4, Miss Marvel, Loki's episodes 5 and 6, and then Miss Marvel. So we'll do that. And yep. Hey, El Necron, thanks for stopping by. And I guess, you know what? Since you mentioned you being in a movie, I guess I can admit that I'm actually going to be in a movie myself next week, which I want to clarify before anyone gets mad at me. this movie was a startup person who did this for fun in my hometown or near my hometown where I used to live, but now I live in a nearby city. Anyway, point is, I did this for free as an extra. I am not part of any SAG, any affiliation, any union at all whatsoever, nor is this project funding by any big studios. In fact, the premiere of this movie is free to get into. So I can promote it that I'm going to be in a movie as an extra called Are They Dead Yet? Which is basically just, again, a startup person doing a movie about a zombie apocalypse that's actually started by a bad batch of the COVID vaccine. So very
Oh,
creative. And
awesome.
I played an extra, like, I did filming for this 2 years ago, and I had no idea what was going to happen with it, but I found out that it's premiering next week in another nearby city of mine, and that my scenes are still in the movie. So I and
Congratulations.
hopefully, thank you. I think this movie, hopefully, because I know they have a YouTube channel, so I think One Code Entertainment. So I think that, though, I'm hoping that the movie will eventually be on the YouTube channel too. So again, I'm an extra. I'm not like a main character at all. I did 2 nights of filming, but so again, since you mentioned you being a movie, I couldn't resist
Look
bringing
at
up my
us.
stuff as well.
Look at
But
us. Who would have thought? Not me.
but overall, thank you, Josh, for coming on and like finishing the series. We started. Oh yeah, thank you, El Necron. Again, it's nothing too huge, but still kind of cool. Still really cool. And thank you, Josh, though, for coming on and finishing Ahsoka. We started bringing you on with the whole Mikey Sutton Memorial stream, fundraiser stream that we did. Which, again, guys, please donate. He
Yes.
meant a lot to us all. And point is, we talked to Ahsoka, and I just figured it was only fitting to finish the series with you. And I really appreciate it. I had such a great time discussing the series with you, and I can't wait to do more. And so, guys, if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more unique takes and interesting thoughts. And on that note, have a bat-tastic day.
Sky guy.